Chapter 459. Clean and tidy. Pucci. A column of blood spurted out. Su Qian's eyes were wide open as his head was separated from his body. He was dead. The moment he killed Su Qian, Yuan waved his right hand and took the Qiankuan bag from Su Qian's waist. He was so thick-skinned that he didn't blush at all. So strong. Yuan is so strong. Isn't he just a two-wheel ultimate king realm warrior? Seeing Su Qian and the other two get killed so quickly, Qing Lian's cherry lips were slightly agape and her eyes were dull. Originally, she thought that Zhuan would at least be caught in a tough battle and might even be defeated by Su Qian and the other two. But she never thought that Zhuan's strength would be so strong that Su Qian and the other two were instantly defeated by Zhuan. Miss Qing Lian, are you all right? After dealing with Su Qian and the other two, Zhuan stepped forward and came to Qing Lian's side. He took out some healing elixirs from his Qiankuan bag and gave them to her. Pushing the elixirs that Zhuan handed to her, Qing Lian shook her head and said, I have special elixirs in my Qiankuan bag. They are much more effective than ordinary elixirs, so there's no need to waste these elixirs. Seeing that Qing Lian refused, Zhuan didn't insist. He nodded and put the elixirs back into his Qiankuan bag. Although these elixirs weren't very useful to him, they could still be of some use at a critical moment. And even if he didn't have them, he could take them back to Yue family and let Zhuo Xiangding distribute them to the family disciples. Qing Lian stole a glance at Zhuan and hesitated slightly. She gritted her teeth and said, My junior sister Red Lotus is being hunted by Su Liang. Can you help me save her? In the beginning, Qing Lian didn't know Zhuowen's strength. She only thought that he was an ordinary two-wheel ultimate king realm warrior, so she didn't want to add to Zhuowen's trouble. However, Qing Lian knew that she'd underestimated Zhuowen's strength after witnessing how easily Zhuowen had dealt with Su Qian and the others. After all, Su Qian was a mid-second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, while the other two were early second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivators. The three of them couldn't take more than a few moves from Zhuan Yangqin. Clearly, Zhuan was comparable to a late-stage or even peak ultimate king realm warrior. If Zhuan was Zhuan, he might be able to save Red Lotus from Su Liang. Your junior sister Red Lotus? Only now did Zhuan discover that the girl in red who had been by Qing Lian's side was no longer here. However, Zhuan wasn't a busybody. Zhuan didn't know Hong Lian, so Zhuan subconsciously didn't want to get involved. After all, although Su Liang was only a late-stage ultimate king realm warrior, as the second genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate, he probably had many trump cards up his sleeves. If they really fought, he would definitely be no weaker than a peak ultimate king realm warrior. Zhuan was extremely repulsed by the fact that he didn't know such a troublesome opponent. Seeing Zhuowen's appearance, how could Qing Lian not know that Zhuowen was unwilling in his heart? Although she hadn't known Zhuowen for a long time, she also knew that the young man before her was extremely principled in doing things. If it wasn't related to him, he would absolutely not interfere. But if it was related to his own matters, this Zhuowen would absolutely risk his life. Qing Lian knew that Zhuowen cared so much about her because she had helped Zhuowen quite a bit in the past, so he had a much better impression of her. On the other hand, Hong Lian was someone who had nothing to do with Zhuowen. With Zhuowen's personality, he didn't want to get involved in other people's business. Qing Lian bit her lower lip as a trace of pleading appeared in her eyes, and, I beg you to save my junior sister. Otherwise, once she falls into Su Liang's hands, she'll probably end up in a very miserable state. After a moment of silence, Zhuan nodded. Since Miss Qing Lian has requested it, it would be rather unreasonable of me to refuse. Tell me where Su Liang has gone. Seeing Zhuowen agree, Qing Lian let out a sigh of relief. She smiled sweetly and pointed to the dense forest in front of them. She said, Su Liang and junior sister Hong Lian fled in this direction. That Su Liang is extremely fast. You need to hurry over. Otherwise, it will be too late. Nodding, Yuan waved his right hand and summoned the reverse spirit puppet from nearby. He surrounded Qing Lian and said, This puppet is at the peak of the ultimate king realm. Stay here and recover. The puppet will protect you. I'll be going first. With that, lightning flickered on Zhuowen's back and a pair of large wings of lightning appeared. With a few flashes, he vanished into the dense forest ahead. A complicated expression appeared in Qing Lian's eyes as she watched the figure vanish into the distance. Back in the ancient dwelling, the young man before her had been far weaker than her. Although Jun was not bad at that time, he had yet to reach a breathtaking level. However, over 2 years later, the young man before her had actually grown so quickly. He hadn't relied on any organization or resources, relying solely on himself. Not only had he broken through to the ultimate king realm, his strength had far surpassed hers. Perhaps this is a heaven-sent genius. If senior sister Luo Xing knew about Zhuowen's current strength, she probably wouldn't ignore him like she did in the past. Qing Lian murmured softly. Swoosh swoosh. 2 figures, one fleeing and one pursuing, flashed through the dense forest, causing many birds and beasts to roar in the depths of the forest. When the infuriated origin beasts sensed the presence of these 2 figures, they all quieted down and hid far away, not daring to approach. Little sister Red Lotus, why are you running? I, Su Liang, promise you that as long as you give me your origin Yin, I won't take your life. Moreover, after this battle for the origin Qi Tower, I will personally go to the Jade Maiden Star Court and formally marry you, so you don't have to worry too much about your chastity. The green-robed young man, Su Liang, who was chasing from behind, stared fixedly at Red Lotus's graceful figure in front of him. His sinister eyes were full of ridicule. With his strength, it was extremely easy for him to catch up to Red Lotus, but he didn't do so. Instead, he enjoyed the feeling of a cat catching a mouse, especially when he saw the tear-stained face of the beautiful girl in front of him. This made Su Liang even more excited. Su Liang, you shameless, perverted hoodlum. You usually look like a gentleman, but I didn't expect you to be such a despicable person. Formally marry? What right do you have to marry me? If you want my origin Yin, don't even think about it. If I'm caught, I'll directly break my own heart and commit suicide. Red Lotus also saw that Su Liang was playing cat and mouse and her pretty face was filled with despair. She knew that with her strength of the ultimate emperor realm, she was no match for Su Liang. Su Liang's expression changed slightly when he heard this. He sneered, whether you're willing or not, I, Su Liang, will take your origin Yin. Even if you commit suicide, I have a way to get your origin Yin from your corpse. If you want to commit suicide, you can do so now. Otherwise, I won't have to waste my energy chasing after you. Red Lotus's pretty face turned deathly pale when she heard this. She instantly understood what Su Liang wanted to do. Even if she died, Su Liang wouldn't let her corpse go. Red Lotus's heart was filled with fear when she thought about how her corpse was going to be ravaged by this person behind her. This Su Liang is a pervert. I can't fall into his hands, or else. Red Lotus didn't dare to think about it any further. After Su Liang's threat, Red Lotus's desire to die had completely disappeared. What she wanted now was to meet her senior sister Luo Xing from the Jade Maiden Celestial Court in the forest and save her from the bastard Su Liang. Forget it. I'm not playing anymore. I'll just catch you and take your origin Yin. Soon, a trace of impatience appeared on Su Liang's face. He took several steps in the air and turned into a series of afterimages. In an instant he had closed the distance between him and Red Lotus. Soon he was only a few feet away from her. Red Lotus's pretty face turned deathly pale when she heard the sound of something breaking through the air behind her. She bit her lower lip and slapped her Qinquan bag with her jade-like hand. She threw out many defensive spirit treasures, but unfortunately, they were only medium and high-grade spirit treasures. There are quite a few spirit treasures in your Qinquan bag, but they're all trash. They can't stop me at all. Su Liang laughed out loud. With a sweep of his right hand, a powerful force sent the incoming spiritual treasures flying. With a leap, he arrived behind Hong Lian in an instant. With a slap of his hand, he slammed it onto Hong Lian's shoulder. Red Lotus spat out a mouthful of blood. Her pretty face was drained of color. Her delicate body trembled and fell from the sky like a withered leaf. Fortunately, Su Liang's attack was very measured. He didn't intend to seriously injure Red Lotus, so Red Lotus still had some strength left. She twisted her slim waist in midair. Just as she was about to hit the ground, she dissipated the force and knelt on one knee. Whoosh! Su Liang rushed over and stopped not far away. He looked mockingly at Red Lotus, who was trembling like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. A strange light flashed in his eyes. Once I take Red Lotus Vital Een, my Dark Een finger will reach perfection. Furthermore, I can use the Vital Een of the Extreme Een body to break through to the peak of the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm. If I'm lucky, I might even be able to reach the third wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm. Su Liang's eyes burned with passion when he thought of the legends of the Extreme Een body and its various benefits. He suddenly took a step forward and his right hand formed a claw as he extended it towards Red Lotus. It's over, it's over. What should I do now? Red Lotus' mind went blank as she stared at Su Liang's approaching claw. Her delicate body trembled violently as she stood rooted to the spot. Her beautiful eyes were filled with dense mist. Swish! Just as Su Liang's claw was about to make contact with Red Lotus' delicate body, there was a sharp sound of something tearing through the air. Soon after, a strange streak of blood-red light shot through the air and headed straight for Su Liang's chest. Su Liang's eyelids twitched. His claw that had originally been aimed at Red Lotus suddenly changed direction and slammed into the streak of blood-red light. Thump, thump, thump. The tremendous force caused Su Liang's eyes to shrink. He couldn't help but take a dozen steps back. He stared at the dense forest behind him with a gloomy expression and said, "Who is it?" to actually launch a sneak attack. Chapter 460. Black Dragon Halberd Yun. Rustling sounds rang out as a tall and straight figure slowly appeared in front of them. Red Lotus's beautiful eyes lit up as she immediately recognized this figure as Jun. However, the light in Red Lotus's eyes quickly dimmed. Although Jun had appeared, she knew that Jun was only at the early stage of the second wheel while Su Liang was at the late stage of the second wheel. The difference between the two was too great. Jun was simply throwing his life away. Red Lotus bit her lower lip and hurriedly shook her head. Su Liang is at the late stage of the second wheel. You're no match for him. Hurry up and leave. If possible, go save senior sister Clear Lotus. Don't come here to throw your life away. Shifting his gaze slightly, Zhuo Wen's gaze focused on Hong Lian. Seeing that Hong Lian was reminding him out of goodwill, Zhuo Wen's expression froze. Soon after, a trace of a smile appeared on his face. Hong Lian's heart was pretty good. She was clearly in a dangerous situation, yet she still had the mood to advise others to flee. Zhuowen? The Zhuowen from that low-level city, Ratan Armor City? Su Liang narrowed his eyes. He was already somewhat familiar with Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen had caused a stir when he took the Empyrean Steel test, so he had some impression of this Zhuowen. Now that Red Lotus had called out Zhuowen's name, he naturally recognized Zhuowen. Narrowing his eyes, he said indifferently, "Brat from a low-level city, your luck is pretty good to be able to enter the second level of the Origin Chi Tower. If you don't want to die in the dark forest, hurry up and scram. Don't get in my way." Zhuowen looked past Su Liang and stared at Red Lotus behind him with a smile. "Don't worry, Miss Red Lotus. I've already saved Clear Lotus. This time, it was Clear Lotus who asked me to come and save you." Red Lotus was startled when she heard this. Puzzled, she asked, "You saved senior sister Clear Lotus? I remember that the other 3 people from Marquis House of Baichuan should be with senior sister Clear Lotus. Did you save senior sister from those 3 people?" In Hong Lian's opinion, although Zhuowen's strength was not bad, there was still a certain gap between him and the other 3 from the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. After all, just Su Qian's cultivation was at the mid-stage of the Ultimate King realm, a level higher than Zhuowen's. The other 2's cultivation was similar to Zhuowen's. He did not believe that Zhuowen could successfully save Qing Lian from the 3 of them. At the same time, I also got rid of Su Qian and the other 2 trash, so Qing Lian is very safe now. Zhuowen nodded seriously. "What? You killed Su Qian and the other 2? Su Liang, who originally had a gloomy expression because of Zhuowen's disregard, revealed a trace of astonishment when he heard Zhuowen's words. Shortly after, he sneered, "There should be a limit to your jokes. You can kill Su Qian and the other 2 with your strength?" Hong Lian's pretty face also had a trace of disbelief. At the same time, she was somewhat disappointed in Zhuowen. Zhuowen, who had been constantly mentioned by senior sister Clear Lotus, turned out to be such a vain person. He clearly didn't have the strength, yet he insisted on boasting in front of others. Joke? Aijun, never joke. If you don't believe me, take a look at what this is. Yun directly ignored the sneer on Su Liang's face. He slapped his chinkuan bag with his right hand, and 3 large heads flew out and rolled at Su Liang's feet. These 3 heads were naturally Su Qian and the other 2. Su Qian, Su Ri, Su Yan. The sneer on Su Liang's face slowly froze, and it was replaced by shock. He originally thought that Zhuowen was joking, but now that the heads of Su Qian and the other 2 had really appeared beneath his feet, he knew that the 3 of them were probably really dead. Moreover, they had died at the hands of this young man. Behind him, Hong Lian was stunned as well. Her eyes widened as she stared straight at the 3 heads at Su Liang's feet. She covered her hand gently and murmured, Jun actually killed the 3 of them, but Jun is clearly only at the early second wheel, while Su Qian is at the mid-second wheel. Su Ri and Su Yan are at the early second wheel as well, yet they were still killed by Zhuowen even when they worked together? Shifting her gaze slightly, Hong Lian's beautiful eyes once again focused on the slender figure of the young man in front of her. She suddenly realized how wrong her thoughts were. Zhuowen was not simple at all. No wonder senior sister Clear Lotus often talks about Zhuowen. He really is not simple. Hong Lian said with a complicated expression. Zhuowen, I'll kill you. You actually dared to kill the people of my Marquis of Baichuan's estate. A terrifying aura suddenly surged out as a seemingly corporeal killing intent slowly rose in Su Liang's eyes. He stared fixedly at Zhuowen with his scarlet-red eyes. With a roar, he took a step forward and instantly shot toward Zhuowen. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Su Liang, don't worry. Su Qian and the other 2 are waiting for you in the underworld. I'll send you down to join them as soon as possible. Zhuowen knew that since he had already killed the 3 of them, then he was already irreconcilable with the Marquis of Baichuan's estate. However, if he could directly kill Su Liang in the dark forest, then the Marquis of Baichuan's estate might not suspect him. So, Su Liang must die. With that, Zhuowen was awe-inspiring and fearless. The pair of thunder wings on his back suddenly opened and closed, leaving behind a series of thunder shadows in the void as he instantly dodged Su Liang's attack that was flying towards him. His feet repeatedly stepped in the void as he pulled out his right hand from behind his back. The blood-red spear suddenly appeared in his palm. With a flick of his 5 fingers, the blood-red spear violently rotated and turned into a strange blood-red light in midair that pierced towards the back of Su Liang's head. Humph! Su Liang snorted coldly as he patted his chinkuan bag with his right hand and suddenly pulled out a large halberd that was shrouded in black mist. A terrifying aura burst out from the large halberd. Su Liang swung the large halberd back at the critical moment, and the huge and terrifying halberd tip instantly collided with the tip of the blood-red spear. Bang! The halberd tip and spear tip collided, causing sparks to fly in all directions. The crisp and pleasant sound of metal clashing resounded as waves of air continued to emanate from the 2. It's just a high-grade spirit treasure. Watch how my black dragon halberd breaks your spear. Su Liang's face was cold as he stepped on the ground. His right hand gripped the halberd tightly while his left hand slapped the bottom of the large halberd. A huge force burst out and directly sent the blood-red spear flying. Earth-rank spirit treasure? His expression changed slightly. Su Liang was indeed the second genius of Marquis House of Baichuan. He had taken out a rare earth-rank spirit treasure. The black dragon halberd's aura was extremely terrifying, but it was much weaker than the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. It should be a low-grade earth-rank spirit treasure. You're obviously a lowly person from a low-grade city, but you're quite knowledgeable. Presumably, it's the first time a lowly person like you has seen such a treasure. You should be able to die in peace under my black dragon halberd. With a sinister smile, Su Liang stepped on the air and stretched out his right hand to grab the black dragon halberd that was still in midair. The halberd's body tightened and the black dragon halberd's momentum did not decrease as it directly pierced toward Zhuowen's chest. Because the blood-red spear was directly sent flying by the black dragon halberd, Yuan did not have any weapons on him. In Su Liang's opinion, Yuan was dead meat. Not far away, when Hong Lian saw this scene, her pretty face changed and her heart was in a mess. You're not the only one with an Earth-rank spirit treasure. I have one too. As the black dragon halberd approached, Zhuowen's expression was not the slightest bit flustered. He waved his right hand and immediately summoned the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron that was several feet in size. He slapped the cauldron and the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron directly blocked in front of Zhuowen. Ding! A crisp sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out as the black dragon halberd ruthlessly pierced the surface of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. Countless sparks burst out, but in the end, it was unable to advance at all. Instead, Su Liang could not help but retreat due to the rebound force. What? You actually have an Earth-rank spirit treasure? You, a lowly person from a low-grade city, actually have such a treasure? Rubbing his numb hand, Su Liang's pupils constricted as he looked at the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in front of Zhuowen. A trace of shock appeared on his face. Moreover, he faintly discovered that the aura of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in front of Zhuowen was even stronger than the black dragon halberd in his hand. The aura of this strange cauldron in this kid's hand is so vast that it far surpasses the black dragon halberd. Could it be a mid-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure? It might even be a high-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure. It can't be wrong. The cauldron in this kid's hand is definitely an Earth-rank spirit treasure that surpasses the black dragon halberd in quality. This lowly person from a low-grade city has no ability to possess such a treasure. This cauldron should be given to me. Thinking of this, Su Liang's eyes immediately revealed a trace of greed. He knew that if he obtained this cauldron, it would be enough to make up for the loss of Su Qian and the others. No wonder a 2-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator like you was able to kill Su Qian and the other two. It turns out that you possess such an Earth-rank spirit treasure. Kid, such a treasure is simply a waste on you. Only I am worthy of such a treasure. Give it to me. Laughing loudly, Su Liang stomped his foot and his entire body turned into a shadow. He had already made up his mind to kill Zhuowen and seize the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. I'm just afraid that it will burn your hands. In my opinion, it's better for you to give me the black dragon halberd in your hand. With a cold snort, Yuan patted the cauldron's body. The fire vent at the bottom of the cauldron suddenly spat out the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames. The 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames were like 2 giant blue and green dragons. They intertwined in the air and suddenly pounced towards Su Liang. Earth fire? And 2 types of earth fire? This cauldron is indeed amazing. It can actually contain such a wondrous item as earth fire. This cauldron is mine. Seeing that the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron was spitting out 2 types of earth fire, the greed in Su Liang's eyes became even more intense. One had to know that earth fire was extremely powerful. Very few containers could withstand the corrosion of earth fire. This was also the reason why even some supreme experts were unable to obtain earth fire. However, the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron in Zhuowen's hand had completely exceeded his expectations. Not only was it powerful, but it could also contain the power of earth fire. This made him even more determined to obtain the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron. Boom! Boom! With a swing of the black dragon halberd, Su Liang directly annihilated the 9 heavens thunder blazing flame and the 3,000 blue lotus flames. He stomped his foot in the air and waved his right hand. The black dragon halberd turned into a terrifying black light that swept toward Zhuowen. I told you, this thing will only burn your hands. Chapter 461. Dark underworld finger appears. A scorching sound rang out. With Zhuowen as the center, the temperature rose at an unbelievable speed. The surrounding air was torn apart and evaporated. Feeling the rapidly rising temperature, Su Liang frowned. However, he did not stop moving forward. Instead, he took several steps in the air and rushed toward Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. The black dragon halberd emitted an endless black energy mist. It cut through the air and instantly reached Zhuowen's chest. Boom! When the black dragon halberd was about 10 feet in front of his chest, Zhuowen's body moved without any wind. Waves of powerful hurricane-like air waves burst out from his body. Soon after, the blue and green flames spiraled up from Zhuowen's feet and completely covered Jun. Bang! As the black dragon halberd approached, countless blue and green sparks exploded. Su Liang's pupils shrank. When the black dragon halberd came into contact with the two colored flames, it was as if it was piercing an indestructible steel. It was unable to move forward even half an inch. What kind of flame is this? It can actually block the black dragon halberd. Looking at the two colored flames surrounding Zhuan, Su Liang's face became a little solemn. He felt that the power of this strange two-colored flame was faintly above the earth fire. Boom! The two-colored flames suddenly shrank. From the spiraling flames, a dragon-like fire pillar gushed out and directly blasted towards Su Liang's face. Humph! Snorting coldly, Su Liang was not afraid. He flicked his right hand and the black dragon halberd turned into numerous black shadows and blasted onto the two-colored flame pillar. Countless forces swirled in the air. What surprised Su Liang was that the halberd seemed to have blasted onto a towering mountain. It was heavy and stagnant. Thump, thump, thump. Retreating a dozen steps, the black dragon halberd suddenly stopped on the ground. Su Liang's face became extremely gloomy. He did not expect the two-colored flames released by Zhuan to be so powerful. The web between his thumb and forefinger was still numb. Boom! The two fire pillars disappeared and a slender figure walked out slowly from the fire pillars. He stared at Su Liang and said, "I heard that you are the second genius of the house of Marquis of Baichuan. Is this all you've got?" Hearing this, Su Liang's face instantly darkened. A trace of anger appeared in his eyes as he coldly snorted, "Arrogant brat, don't think you're so great just because you have the upper hand." As he spoke, Su Liang held the black dragon halberd horizontally with both hands. His right foot tapped against the ground, and a terrifying aura burst out from Su Liang's body. Black Dragon Ultimate Kill. Brat, since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. With a low roar, the tip of Su Liang's foot tapped on the ground. With a swoosh sound, Su Liang's entire body swept over like a swimming dragon. The surface of the black dragon halberd continuously released a terrifying ink-black fog, completely enveloping Su Liang and the halberd. In an instant, black fog filled the air wherever Su Liang passed. A resonant dragon's roar exploded in the air like a thunderclap, causing the surroundings to shake. Within the black fog, Su Liang transformed into a huge black dragon and pounced toward Jun. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. With a stomp of his foot, countless two-colored flames transformed into two-colored walls of fire in front of him. The surging heat incessantly roasted the surrounding space, almost distorting it. It's useless. The might of my Black Dragon Ultimate Kill is comparable to the full-strength attack of a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Your two-colored flames are indeed powerful, but it's only comparable to the attack of a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Break it for me. Su Liang sneered. The huge black dragon smashed through the walls of fire in front of Jun like a hot knife through butter. Go to hell. You're already quite capable to force me to use the Black Dragon Ultimate Kill. However, this is as far as you go. The walls of fire crumbled inch by inch. Zhuowen's figure immediately appeared around 3 meters away. The huge dragon head that Su Liang had transformed into suddenly roared. Its gaping maw, which was as tall as a man, unceremoniously swallowed Jun. No! Not far away, Hong Lian had also witnessed this scene. Her pretty face had turned ghastly pale. The might of Su Liang's Black Dragon extermination had already exceeded her expectations. The Black Dragon's might had already surpassed that of a late second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator, and it was faintly approaching the strength of a peak second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. She could sense that the huge Black Dragon was so powerful that it could devour a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. Although Zhuowen's strength was extraordinary, Hong Lian didn't believe that Zhuowen could last long under the attack of the Black Dragon. Is an attack comparable to a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator very strong? Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He took a light step forward and extended his right hand. The moment he extended his right hand, a strange blood-red flame circled around Zhuowen's arm. Sinister lines of blood appeared on the exposed skin of his arm. The lines of blood were like living blood vessels. They gradually spread from Zhuowen's right hand to his entire body. In an instant, the temperature around Zhuowen reached an unimaginable level. Within the Black Dragon, Su Liang immediately sneered when he saw that Zhuowen had only extended one hand. This kid is dead for sure. He's actually using his right hand to resist. He's simply courting death. Boom! There was a thunderous rumble. The moment the Black Dragon came into contact with Zhuowen's outstretched hand, it instantly came to a halt. Su Liang's pupils constricted as he discovered that the Black Dragon was collapsing inch by inch from head to tail. Thump, thump, thump. The Black Dragon was annihilated in an instant, and a powerful shockwave spread out like ripples. Su Liang let out a muffled groan and retreated several dozen steps before he managed to stabilize himself. How is this possible? You actually took my Black Dragon kill with your bare hands and even broke it? Su Liang placed his right hand on his chest as he stared at the youth in front of him in shock. At this moment, Zhuowen had also been forced back a dozen steps due to the huge recoil. However, his physical body was too strong. With a shake of his muscles, he managed to offset the recoil that had spread throughout his body. Although the Jadestone body tempering technique was only a heaven-tier body tempering technique, Zhuowen had cultivated it to perfection. His body was as tough as steel. When Zhuowen had broken through to the 7th level, the flower of flames had mutated and merged with his body. His body's strength had become even more abnormal. This was the appearance of the blood-red flames. After cultivating to the 7th level, Zhuowen's body was much stronger than ordinary cultivators who cultivated to the 7th level of the Jadestone body tempering technique. He was completely capable of taking on a peak second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Not far away, Honglian was even more shocked than Su Liang. She had personally experienced just how powerful the Black Dragon extermination was, but Zhuowen had caught it with his bare hands. What a powerful body. Just his physical strength alone is comparable to a peak second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator. Su Liang's face sank. Zhuowen's strength had exceeded his expectations. He was clearly just a lowly commoner from a low-level city, but he actually had so many trump cards. Su Liang, if you have any other moves, feel free to use them. If you don't, you can go accompany Su Qian and the other two. Zhuowen's expression was cold. He suddenly took a step forward and countless blood-red flames surrounded him. He suddenly punched out with his right fist. The surrounding blood-red flames whistled through the air like a storm, forming a huge blood-red fist. Zhuowen, don't get carried away. Su Liang was furious when he heard this. He glared viciously at Zhuowen and took a step forward, dodging Zhuowen's huge blood-red fist. You think you can dodge it? With a cold snort, Zhuowen's lightning wings opened and closed behind him. He transformed into a swift lightning shadow and instantly arrived in front of Su Liang. His blood-red fist mercilessly punched towards Su Liang's chest. Su Liang had just dodged the blood-red fist. He had not expected Zhuowen to charge directly at him, so he was completely unprepared. At this moment, Zhuowen was close to him. He seemed to have lost his head out of fear. He pushed out with both hands and a golden light exploded in front of him, forming a golden barrier. Rumble! His fist slammed into the golden barrier. Golden light flowed out and exploded in all directions. The barrier instantly crumbled inch by inch. The fist broke through the golden barrier like a hot knife through butter and finally landed on Su Liang's chest. Su Liang's face paled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body instantly fell from the sky like a withered leaf. Su Liang was an experienced person. When he was close to the ground, his waist twisted strangely and his feet kicked in the void. In an instant, he created a recoil force on the ground and landed lightly. Su Liang's face was extremely pale as he knelt on the ground with one knee. Jun, you're really good. You forced me to this extent. If I don't tear you into pieces, I'm not worthy of being called the second genius of the Marquis Mansion. Su Liang roared in a low voice like a wild beast. He stretched out a finger in the void and a surge of surging primordial qi crazily condensed in the void behind Su Liang. Rip! A crack suddenly appeared in the void and a huge black finger that was hundreds of feet long swept out from the crack. It was like a huge mountain and directly descended on the forest. In an instant, the sky changed color. Su Liang really used the underworld shadow finger. Jun, you have to be careful. The underworld shadow finger is the forbidden skill of the Marquis Mansion. It's extremely powerful. Hong Lian's pretty face changed slightly as she quickly reminded Jun. Underworld shadow finger? Forbidden skill? Looking at the huge black finger in the sky, Zhuowen's face became serious. This was because the finger gave off an extremely terrifying aura. This aura was extremely strong, as if the sky and earth were falling apart. It's actually the underworld shadow finger. It seems that the Marquis Mansion is quite lucky to have such a powerful forbidden skill. The underworld shadow finger was quite famous in ancient times. If one fully mastered the underworld shadow finger, the power they could unleash would be comparable to a superior emperor armor skill. However, looking at Su Liang's moves, the underworld shadow finger he's learned should be incomplete. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded. A superior emperor armor skill? This forbidden skill called the underworld shadow finger is so powerful? Hun was shocked when he heard this. One had to know that a superior emperor armor skill's power was extremely terrifying. It could greatly increase the strength of an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. For example, if an ultimate emperor realm cultivator of the same level had a superior emperor armor skill, then he would be able to crush the other without one. Chapter 462. Two Fingers Weeping Ghosts. Is the dark shadow finger really that terrifying? Zhuan asked with an unprecedentedly solemn expression. It is indeed terrifying. After all, the dark shadow finger was considered a forbidden technique in ancient times. Now I know why Su Liang wants to kill Hong Lian. I'm afraid he wants Hong Lian's vital yin. Xiao Hei's voice sounded again. Vital yin? Zhuan was puzzled. The cultivation method of the dark shadow finger is not ordinary. It cannot be cultivated through ordinary methods. Instead, it requires the primordial yin of a young woman. With the help of the cold attribute of the primordial yin, the dark shadow finger can absorb the corresponding energy and continuously evolve and strengthen. Xiao Hei paused for a moment and continued. Don't you realize that Hong Lian is not ordinary? This girl has an extreme yin body that is rarely seen in 100 years. The strength of her vital yin is comparable to the vital yin of hundreds of young women. If Su Liang absorbs this girl's vital yin, he can directly cultivate the dark shadow finger to the complete realm. Its power will become extremely terrifying. Hearing this, Zhuan finally understood why Su Liang wanted to kill Qing Lian and Hong Lian. After all, they were backed by the 5 super forces in the prefecture capital. It was not a good idea to offend them. However, Su Liang did it and even killed Qing Lian and Hong Lian. Obviously, the vital yin of an extreme yin body was very attractive to him. Jun, let's see if you can withstand my dark shadow finger. Su Liang glared at Zhuan with a venomous expression. He pointed his right finger at the void and shouted, Dark shadow finger, one finger shocks heaven and earth. Rumble. The dark nether finger, which was hundreds of feet long, tore through the void and headed straight for Zhuan. Wherever it passed, the space shattered and collapsed layer by layer. Zhuan's face was solemn. For the first time, he felt the terror and power of the dark shadow finger. However, he did not retreat. Instead, he took a step forward and reached out with his right hand. He pushed the surrounding blood flames to the limit and condensed a blood hand, which was hundreds of feet long, in the void. Its power was not inferior to the dark shadow finger. Rumble. The black finger and the bloody hand instantly collided, causing ripples in the surrounding space. As the ripples spread, the space collapsed inch by inch, and the surrounding trees were turned into dust and nothingness. Just the aftershock of the collision between the two had already reached such a terrifying level. This caused Hong Lian, who was not far away, to be stunned. She continuously retreated, resisting the aftershock of the surrounding airwaves. Su Liang roared and pressed down with his right finger. His eyes were filled with madness. The black finger in the air seemed to have sensed Su Liang's emotions. An ink-black brilliance overflowed in all directions, and its might surged violently. For a moment, it directly suppressed the bloody hand. Gotcha! Traces of cracks appeared on the surface of the huge bloody hand. Soon after, the cracks widened and the huge bloody hand was directly annihilated into nothingness in the void. The dark nether finger was ready to be unleashed with irresistible force. It rode the wind and waves as it descended toward Zhuowen below. With a muffled groan, Zhuowen could not help but retreat a few dozen meters. He raised his head slightly and looked at the dark underworld finger that was rolling down. His face revealed a deep, grave expression. 9-wheel burning sky cauldron, open for me. Zhuowen no longer held back. He slapped the lid of the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron with his right hand, and the huge 9-wheel burning sky cauldron's fire vent instantly spewed out 4 different types of flames. The blue 9 heavens thunder blazing flame, the green 3000 green lotus flame, the colorful star blazing flame, and the strange blood flame. The 4 types of powerful earth flames instantly merged and turned into a 4-colored firestorm. It was like a fire pillar that connected the heavens and the earth, directly blasting towards the dark underworld finger in the air. What? This Zhuowen actually has 4 types of earth flames? Damn it. Su Liang also noticed the 4 types of earth flames spewing out from the 9-wheel burning sky cauldron, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The rarity of earth flames was well known. It was already considered extremely lucky to have 1 type of earth flame. However, Zhuowen actually had 4 types of earth flames. How could this not shock Su Liang? Boom! The firestorm above Zhuowen directly blocked the dark underworld finger. After the impact of the blood hand, the dark underworld finger was much dimmer than before. Now that it was blocked by the firestorm, it could not advance at all. Instead, it was suppressed by the firestorm. He blocked it? Red Lotus, who was not far away, was pleasantly surprised. The Zhuowen in front of her had really brought her many surprises. He had an endless stream of trump cards, and each of them was stronger than the last. She really did not know where Zhuowen's limit was. Maybe this Zhuowen can defeat Su Liang. Red Lotus's face, which was originally filled with despair, was now replaced by hope. At this moment, Su Liang's expression was extremely ugly. At the same time, his heart was in turmoil. Zhuowen's strength had already exceeded his expectations. This kid must be killed. Otherwise, if this kid continues to grow, even Big Brother may not be able to deal with this little bastard in the future. It seems like I can only use that move. Su Liang felt more and more threatened by Zhuowen. One had to know that Zhuowen was much younger than him, and his cultivation level was also much lower. However, when it came to fighting, Zhuowen was actually suppressing him. This kind of strength that far exceeded one's cultivation level could only be achieved by those extremely monstrous geniuses. However, Zhuowen had done it. Clearly, Zhuowen's potential was comparable to those monstrous geniuses. Thinking of this, the killing intent in Su Liang's heart became even more intense. He suddenly stepped forward and pointed his finger again. In an instant, the surrounding yuan qi violently boiled again. Moreover, the power this time was even more intense and terrifying than the first time Su Liang used the dark underworld finger. The surrounding yuan qi almost turned into hurricanes that constantly raged and overflowed. After the firestorm, Zhuowen's eyelids twitched. He also felt the terrifying power around Su Liang. It was a sign that he was about to release a powerful move. Moreover, he had a premonition that Su Liang's move this time would definitely be more powerful than the dark underworld finger. This Su Liang actually has an even more powerful move? This dark underworld finger is already abnormal enough. Zhuowen was also somewhat helpless. Su Liang's difficulty had somewhat exceeded his expectations. The top geniuses of the 5 superforces were indeed not to be trifled with. Dark underworld finger, 2 fingers weeping ghosts and gods. Suddenly roaring, Su Liang's second finger pointed at the void. Above the void behind him, an even bigger hole was torn open. From that huge hole, a black finger that was close to 1,000 feet long slowly stretched out. The strange thing was that the surface of this even bigger black finger was actually filled with a thick ink-black fog. Within the fog, countless ghostly faces were faintly discernible. Terrifying and ear-piercing howls constantly reverberated in the area. The heart-wrenching howls spread, causing the meta-beasts within 100 miles of the dark forest to tremble. Even some of the more timid ancient martial art practitioners did not dare to come close at all. This was because they had already recognized the forbidden technique of the dark underworld finger. In Muqin County, only the house of Marquis Baichuan possessed such a forbidden technique. Moreover, the people in the house of Marquis Baichuan were not to be trifled with. If one was not careful, one's life would be in danger. Therefore, some of the ancient martial art practitioners who were nearby suppressed the curiosity in their hearts and hid far away. They did not dare to come close. In an open space close to 1,000 miles southeast of the dense forest where Su Liang was, a young man with a gloomy gaze walked slowly. The young man's right hand was casually playing with 2 round balls. There was a strange black fog lingering around the young man's body. Waves of powerful aura constantly spread out from the fog. After sensing the black fog around the young man, many of the meta-beasts in the dense forest looked fearful and hid far away. The aura of the dark underworld finger? In the house of Marquis Baichuan, other than me, only second brother possesses such a forbidden technique. However, in this dark forest, what is it that is worth second brother to use the dark underworld finger? The young man's right hand paused and the 2 rolling balls stopped in his palm. Soon after, the young man raised his head. Under the thin light, a cold and handsome face appeared. It was the number 1 genius of the house of Marquis Baichuan, Su Tianliang. Su Tianliang's right hand suddenly clenched. His gaze darkened as he said, "What? The aura of the dark underworld finger has doubled. Did second brother use the second move of the dark underworld finger? Damn it, with second brother's strength, what is there in the dark forest that requires him to make such a big fuss? No, I must go and take a look." With a stomp of his foot, Su Tianliang silently disappeared from where he was. There is a second move of the dark underworld finger. Looking at the huge black finger in the sky, accompanied by countless ghost shadows, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. The power of the second move of the dark underworld finger was somewhat out of Zhuowen's expectation. It was much stronger than the first move. Puchi. Before the huge black finger completely came out of the void, Su Tianliang groaned and his face became extremely pale. He actually spat out a mouthful of blood. Obviously, Su Tianliang's dark underworld finger was not refined to perfection. Damn it. Second finger, come out for me. I must kill this Zhuan. Su Tianliang's eyes were filled with madness. The power of heaven and earth in his body poured out like crazy. The huge black finger that was originally stagnant in the void suddenly blasted open the void and smashed down with a rumble. It seems that there is no need to hide. If I don't use my full strength, it is impossible to block the second move of the dark underworld finger. Licking his lips, Zhuowen's eyes had a trace of excitement. Ever since his mental strength broke through to the 4th level, Zhuowen had not used his mental strength in a battle. With a thought, the mud pill palace in the depths of his eyebrows suddenly began to rotate. Waves of mental strength poured out like a tide, with Yun as the center, forming a transparent domain. Under the effect of this mental strength, Jun floated under his feet, slowly floating several feet above the ground. Mental strength? This Jun is also an arcana master? Not far away, Su Tianliang noticed Zhuowen's strange state and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. But soon he sneered and said, "Hee, this kid is stupid, isn't he? Arcana masters are not suited for battle. Using mental strength is completely useless unless he is a 4th level arcana master." Su Tianliang shook his head. Arcana masters were extremely weak, especially before reaching the 4th level. They were as weak as mortals. Of course, once an arcana master reached the 4th level, they would undergo a qualitative change. Their battle prowess would reach the point where even ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators would not dare to fight them. Boom! The earth quaked as Zhuowen floated in the air. The mental strength on the surface of his body had increased by several times. Countless strands of mental strength seemed to materialize into terrifying gusts of wind. Chapter 463. Ssu Tianliang. Countless gusts of wind converged, forming a spiritual storm that covered the sky. The tremendous power even cracked the ground within a radius of several hundred feet, and countless trees were crushed into powder. A fourth-grade arcanist? How is that possible? How can this kid be a fourth-grade arcanist? Su Tianliang's eyes widened, unable to believe what he saw. As the second son of the Marquis of Baichuan, he naturally knew how rare and mysterious arcanists were. Among them, a fourth-grade arcanist was enough to obtain a very high status and reputation in the prefecture capital. Even his father, Marquis of Baichuan, did not dare to offend such an existence, because the power behind the arcanists was the Arcanist Guild, which was almost all over the heavenly armor continent. There was a branch of the Arcanist Guild in the prefecture capital, which was as powerful as the 5 superpowers in the prefecture capital. However, because the Arcanist Guild in the prefecture capital was very low-key, it was not as famous as the 5 superpowers, but the 5 superpowers did not dare to underestimate the existence of the Arcanist Guild. Moreover, the battle for the Vitality Tower was a competition for talented warriors, and there were very few arcanists participating in it. This was because arcanists who did not have 4th-grade spiritual power would always be much weaker than warriors, so they would only end up being abused if they participated. A 4th-grade arcanist under the age of 30 was even rarer, which was why the Arcanist Guild did not participate in the battle for the Vitality Tower. Of course, Zhuowen's dual cultivation of spiritual power, and to reach such a high level of both, were very rare. He was probably 1 in 10,000. How old is this Zhuowen now? His spiritual strength cultivation has reached level 4. This is too monstrous. Red Lotus, who was not far away, also saw this scene and was so shocked that she almost bit her tongue. After spitting out this sentence, she did not know what to say. A 4th-grade arcanist. Even the entire Jade Lady Astral Court did not have such an existence. The highest level was only a 3rd-grade arcanist at the Great Perfection. Moreover, Nguyen was so young, and his future was limitless. At this time, the soles of his feet floated in the air. Zhuowen's expression was cold. With a thought, he waved his right hand, and the spiritual storm in front of him rumbled and annihilated the space, directly bombarding the huge pitch-black finger above the void. Rumble! The dark underworld finger and the spiritual storm clashed together. Countless astral winds collapsed, and the space was distorted and torn apart. The layers of collapse caused ripples to spread out, annihilating everything in the surroundings. For a moment, the two were in a stalemate in the void. The dark nether finger has been blocked. Su Liang's expression grew uglier and uglier. Zhuowen's spiritual force of the 4th rank had greatly exceeded his expectations. After all, the spiritual force of a 4th-rank Arcana Master was extremely powerful. Even an initial 4th-rank Arcana Master's strength was comparable to a 3-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. This wasn't something that he could contend against. This Zhuowen is too monstrous. I'm afraid I'm no match for him right now. Su Liang's eyelids twitched when he saw the dark nether finger being blocked by the spiritual storm in the air, and the thought of retreating arose in his heart. If Zhuowen was merely a 2nd-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator, then Su Liang wouldn't have taken him seriously. However, Zhuowen also possessed spiritual power at the initial stage of the 4th-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm. His strength was comparable to a 3rd-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. The current Zhuowen wasn't someone he could contend against at all. If he didn't retreat now, it was very likely that he would die here. Zhuowen, just you wait. Although you're a 4th-rank Arcana Master, this is the Yuan Qi Tower. Your life and death are in the hands of the heavens. As long as you're still inside the Yuan Qi Tower, even if the Marquis of Baichuan's estate kills you, the Arcana Guild won't blame us. Su Liang glared hatefully at Zhuowen and snorted coldly. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a shadow as he attempted to escape. You want to leave? Not so fast. Zhuowen's gaze sharpened. He slapped his Qinkuan pouch with his right hand, and countless rays of sword light flashed. The boundless sword aura, a 4th-rank origin formation, immediately revolved around his body. At this time, Zhuowen's mental strength had completely reached the 4th rank. He could basically exert the full power of a fourth-rank origin formation. Originally, there were 3 major sword moves in the Boundless Sword aura. Among them, Yuan only mastered the first sword move, Flying Sword Slash. However, ever since Zhuowen's mental strength reached the 4th rank, he instantly comprehended the last 2 major sword moves of the Boundless Sword aura. This was because when an Arcana Master's mental strength reached the 4th rank, his understanding of 4th-rank origin formations would far surpass that of a 3rd-rank Arcana Master. Naturally, he would be able to master the moves more easily. Falling Flower Wave Slash. The moment the Boundless Sword aura was summoned, Yuan divided a part of his mental strength and began to mobilize the 2nd sword move of the Boundless Sword aura, Falling Flower Wave Slash. Clang clang clang. 108 cold sword-shaped spirit treasures turned into rays of cold light in the void. At this moment, they seemed to have turned into beautiful withered flowers, fluttering in the air. Endless waves of energy gushed out from the void. The falling flower like sword light rode the wind and broke the waves. It was as fast as lightning and caught up with Su Liang in an instant. Bastard! It's not that easy to kill me. Su Liang, who was fleeing in a sorry state, also noticed the surging sword light behind him. His expression changed slightly. He quickly pulled out the black dragon halberd and waved his hands. Dense black light scattered and formed countless halberd shadows in front of him, trying to block the falling flower like sword light behind him. Clang clang clang. The sound of metal clashing resounded. Su Liang's halberd shadows were like tofu, instantly turning into powder in front of the countless sword light. Su Liang's pupils shrank. He finally felt a trace of fear in his heart. Zhuowen's strength was too strong. He was no match for him at all. He gritted his teeth and secretly said, "Damn it. Originally, this was the amulet that Big Brother gave me. I didn't expect to have to use it now." As he spoke, Su Liang reached out to his chest and directly took out a blue jade pendant. The surface of the jade pendant was overflowing with light and color. It was very beautiful. Bang! Su Liang directly crushed the jade pendant. The blue powder floated in front of Su Liang like starlight. It actually annihilated the countless sword light in front of him. Immediately, the blue energy wrapped around Su Liang like a cloud. Swoosh! Like a meteor, he directly turned into a blue light. As if he was shuttling through the void, he instantly disappeared from his original position. In the next moment, he was already hundreds of feet away. What? His speed is so fast that it's almost at the level of teleportation? Looking at Su Liang, who instantly disappeared from his original position, Zhuowen's face was slightly shocked. It seemed that Su Liang had a lot of treasures on him. At this juncture, he actually still had such a trump card to escape. No, this Su Liang must not be let go. Otherwise, I will be in big trouble with the Baichuan Marquis residents. This Su Liang must die. With a gloomy gaze, Zhuan was very clear about the consequences if he let Su Liang go. He coldly snorted and the lightning wings on his back suddenly opened. His entire body was like a human lightning bolt as he instantly chased after Su Liang. At the same time, Yuan activated the mental energy in his Naiwen Palace to cover his entire body. His speed once again soared by several times and actually began to catch up with Su Liang. What? How could this Zhuowen's speed be so fast? But this shuttling card is not just for show when it's praised as the fastest. Looking at the lightning figure behind him that was hundreds of feet away, Su Liang was first shocked. Soon after, the corner of his mouth was filled with a cold smile. With a thought, the blue fog surrounding his body once again soared. Its speed was actually several times faster than before. In the time of 2 breaths, the distance between the 2 people that was originally hundreds of feet had now been pulled to nearly 100 feet. It can actually still increase speed. Right now, my speed is already at the limit. It is simply impossible to increase my speed any further. However, the strange blue light around Su Liang's body is actually able to raise his speed to such a level. If this continues, Su Liang will quickly escape. Zhuowen, who was chasing from behind, frowned slightly. Zhu, you better remember this. If you offend our Baichuan Marquis residents, so what if you are a rank 4 Arcana Master? We still have a way to kill you. Seeing that Zhuan was being pulled further and further away from him, Su Liang's heart was also relieved. His gaze converged on the figure of Zhuan behind him as he shouted in an extremely arrogant and ruthless manner. Hearing this, Zhuan's gaze suddenly sank. In his heart, the killing intent towards Su Liang became even stronger. After hesitating for a moment, Zhuan clenched his teeth and took out a golden talisman from his Jiankuan bag. He muttered, "I really did not expect that this life talisman would come in handy so soon. However, it is a bit of a waste to use it on Su Liang." Although it was a bit painful, Zhuan also knew that if he did not get rid of Su Liang, there would be no end of trouble in the future. Using a life talisman was not a loss. "Su Liang, consider yourself unlucky. If I did not have a life talisman in my hands, perhaps I really would not be able to do anything to you. However, as of now, you can't escape even if you have wings." Without hesitation, Zhuan instantly crushed the life talisman. Countless golden rays burst out and turned into a dazzling rain of light. The speed of the rain of light was extremely fast, almost reaching the speed of light. In an instant, it formed a huge golden barrier within a range of several hundred feet. The golden barrier just happened to cover Su Liang in front of it. Boom! Su Liang instantly crashed into the golden barrier. The powerful rebound force caused him to involuntarily retreat dozens of steps. His eyes were full of horror as he said, "What is this? Su Liang, you can't escape. Prepare to go to the underworld to see Su Qian and the other two." Whoosh! Zhuan laughed loudly and instantly entered the golden barrier. The distance that was originally opened up by Su Liang was surpassed in the blink of an eye. His figure flashed and arrived a few feet behind Su Liang. "Damn it! Zhuan, you actually still have this trick up your sleeve?" Su Liang turned around and looked at the young man in front of him. His gaze was extremely gloomy and there was even a trace of fear on his face. Ignoring Su Liang's venomous gaze, Zhuan took a light step forward and instantly closed in on Su Liang. Countless amounts of mental energy burst out and turned into an invisible prison, trapping Su Liang in place. Zhuan stretched out his right hand and suddenly grabbed Su Liang's neck and said, "Originally, I did not have any conflict of interest with you. It's just a pity that when there is, it's just so dramatic. You hunted down Qing Lian and the others to become stronger, but I killed you to repay a debt of gratitude. So when you enter the underworld, it's better to know your place." "Then, you dare to kill me? Don't tell me you want to offend our house of Marquis of Baichuan?" Su Liang finally felt the fear of death. "I have completely offended your house of Marquis of Baichuan. There is no way out, so I can only kill you." Zhuan shook his head. His right hand tightened and lifted Su Liang up high. His eyes were filled with indifference and ruthlessness. Chapter 464. A sense of crisis. The shout rolled over like thunder, the rippling sound waves containing an indescribable power under the support of Yuan Li. Everywhere the sound waves passed, trees collapsed, space distorted, and everything turned into a mess. Shocked, Zhuan's gaze shifted slightly as he looked at the figure rapidly approaching from 1,000 miles away. His pupils shrank to the size of needles. Just the sound waves of this person's voice brought him great pressure. This wasn't something an ordinary cultivator could do. Su Tianliang. Zhuan's eyesight was so strong that he immediately saw the face of the figure rushing towards him with a murderous aura. Wasn't this the #1 genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's estate, Su Tianliang? "Big brother. Then, I told you you couldn't kill me. Now that my big brother is here, you're dead meat." Su Liang, who was originally in despair, immediately revealed a look of ecstasy when he saw Su Tianliang rushing towards him from 1,000 miles away. His gaze toward Zhuan was filled with pride. "Reckless fellow. You're at my mercy now, yet you're still so arrogant." With a sinister gaze, Zhuan coldly snorted and tightened his grip on Su Liang's neck. Su Liang's breathing quickened and his cheeks flushed red. The pride in his eyes instantly vanished. He was still in Zhuan's hands. The youth before him could kill him with just a flick of his finger. "My big brother is much stronger than me. Even if you're a 4th-rank Arcana Master, you're still no match for my big brother. So your best option now is to let me go." Only then will you have a chance to live. Feeling the force on his neck, Su Liang's face was filled with fear. His tone was much gentler and even seemed to be negotiating. In the distance, Su Tianliang, who was rushing over, also saw Su Liang's miserable state. Especially when he saw Su Liang being lifted up by the neck with his right hand, he was shocked and angry. However, when he saw Zhuo Wen's face, he was stunned. Zhuo Wen? Was it that Zhuo Wen from a low-level city? How is this possible? This kid is clearly only a second-rank Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. How could he defeat my second brother? Second younger brother even used his ultimate move, the Dark Underworld Finger. At this moment, Su Tianliang's heart was in turmoil. He was well aware of Su Liang's strength. Although he was only at the late stage of the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor realm, when combined with the Dark Shadow Finger and Black Dragon Halberd, he was no weaker than a peak second wheel Ultimate Emperor realm expert. Moreover, the second finger of the Dark Underworld Finger was even more powerful. Perhaps even a peak two-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand it. Its might was already comparable to a half-step three-wheel Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. Su Tianliang was very puzzled as to how Zhuo Wen had defeated Su Liang. Zhuo, let go of my second brother, or die. Although he had doubts in his heart, seeing Su Liang being lifted up by Zhuo Wen with one hand, Su Tianliang was extremely angry. This Zhuo Wen really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually dared to treat the people of Baichuan Marquis Mansion like this. He was simply courting death. This Su Tianliang is very strong. I'm afraid that he has already reached the peak of the Ultimate Emperor stage. Even if you have rank 4 lower tier spiritual power, I'm afraid that you won't be a match for Su Tianliang. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Yes, I know. I originally thought that I would be able to kill Su Liang without anyone knowing. I didn't expect to meet this Su Tianliang halfway. It seems that this enmity with Baichuan Marquis Mansion is set. Nodding, Zhuo Wen suddenly clenched his right hand. The power of heaven and earth in his body formed a vortex-like cyclone and poured into Su Liang's body, diagnosing the meridians in his body. Then, he pointed his right hand between Su Liang's eyebrows and directly annihilated his sea of consciousness. Su Liang's eyes widened as he stared at Zhuo Wen in disbelief. He also didn't expect that Zhuo Wen would actually kill him. Moreover, he didn't hesitate at all in front of his big brother. Su Tianliang, I'll return your second brother to you. After killing Su Liang, Zhuo Wen didn't stay any longer. With a toss of his right hand, he threw Su Liang's body directly towards Su Tianliang, who was rushing over from afar. With a stomp of his foot, he turned into a lightning shadow and disappeared on the spot. With Su Tianliang's cultivation, he naturally saw the scene clearly, especially the scene of Su Liang being killed. He immediately became furious and roared, "How dare you kill my second brother?" Boom! Su Tianliang waved his right hand. As if the sky and earth changed color, a huge black palm that was hundreds of feet long appeared directly above Zhuo Wen's head from the depths of the void and immediately blasted down. Sensing the abnormality above his head, Zhuo Wen's expression changed slightly. Su Tianliang was still a few hundred miles away, but he was still able to display such a powerful force from such a distance. It seemed that the experts on the Azure Emperor list could not be underestimated. Block it for me. Clenching his teeth, Zhuo Wen tried his best to activate the mental power in his Mudpill Palace. His mental power converged in the air like a tidal wave and formed an equally huge transparent palm. Then, it clashed with the black palm in the sky. Boom! When the two palms collided, the surrounding space was distorted and collapsed. The astral wind that flowed out of the space crack was like the sharpest blade in the world. It overflowed in all directions and turned the forest below into fine powder. The ground cracked into gravel. Puff! Zhuo Wen's face turned pale and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. He was thrown away and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. The power of Su Tianliang's casual attack was actually so strong. Fortunately, Zhuo Wen's mind power was not weak. Although he was at a disadvantage, he still annihilated the huge black palm in the void. Su Tianliang is too strong. He is much stronger than LV Yongxing. Zhuo Wen, Run quickly. Don't let him catch up with you. Otherwise, you will probably die in his hands today. At this time, Xiao Hei's voice sounded a little anxious. The thunder wings on his back opened and closed, instantly stabilizing his flying figure. Zhuowen's face was gloomy. He stepped into the void and did not dare to exchange blows with Su Tianliang again. The latter's strength was too terrifying. Even if he used all his trump cards now, he was afraid that he would not be a match for him. This mind power is so strong. It has actually surpassed the scope of a third-rank arcanist. Is this kid a fourth-rank arcanist? Su Tianliang, who was behind, also revealed a trace of surprise after seeing the black palm being destroyed. In particular, the huge palm condensed by Zhuowen's mind power just now was not something that an ordinary arcanist could produce. No wonder even second brother was not a match for this kid. He is a fourth-rank arcanist. Su Tianliang's eyes darkened, his face filled with murderous intent. He was well aware of how high the status of a rank 4 arcana master was in the outside world. Unfortunately, this was the origin energy tower. Even if a rank 4 arcana master died inside, the Arcana Guild wouldn't care. I really didn't expect this kid's talent in mind power to be so terrifying. If I can't kill this kid in the Vitality Tower, it is even more impossible to kill him outside. I must kill this Zhuowen as soon as possible. Su Tianliang's mind was very clear. Zhuowen was only 18 or 19 years old. To be able to become a fourth-rank arcanist at this age meant that his future was limitless. If he was not killed now, there would be no chance at all in the future. Thinking of this, Su Tianliang no longer held back. His figure flashed out like a ghost and instantly closed the distance between them. At this time, he was only a few dozen kilometers away from Zhuowen, and this distance was still slowly shortening. Zhuowen, you can't escape today. Those who kill my Baichuan Marquis residents will never have a good ending. If I, Su Tianliang, catch you, I will make you beg for death. Su Tianliang's face was full of murderous intent as he carried Su Liang's body in his right hand. Su Liang's death was too big a blow to him. After all, this was his only brother. Now that he was dead, how could he let it go? Moreover, Zhuowen's talent also gave him a sense of crisis. This Su Tianliang is really difficult to deal with. Feeling Su Tianliang's aura getting closer and closer behind him, Zhuowen could not help but feel his scalp tingle. Su Tianliang was too strong, giving him a feeling that he could not resist. This Su Tianliang is after all a warrior at the peak of the ultimate three-wheel emperor realm. His strength and speed are much faster than mine. In this chase, he will definitely catch up. I must slow him down. A trace of ruthlessness appeared in Zhuowen's eyes. With a wave of his right hand, the infinite sword aura surrounding him buzzed. 108 cold sword-shaped spirit treasures turned into countless sword lights and rushed toward Su Tianliang behind him. Revolving Heaven Sword danced 9 consecutive moves. Zhuowen did not hesitate to use the most powerful third sword move of the limitless sword aura. The Heavenly Sword danced 9 consecutive moves. This Su Tianliang's strength was too strong. If Zhuowen did not use his full strength, it was impossible to stop his pursuit. In an instant, countless sword lights filled the air. The cold light was biting cold. Hundreds of feet behind Zhuowen, the sword lights gathered to form a huge sword-like domain. A sharp sword chi that penetrated the heavens and the earth shot out, changing the color of the world. Su Tianliang, who was chasing from behind, had a serious expression. Zhuowen's strength had somewhat exceeded his expectations. Just the power of the sword-like domain that suddenly appeared made him feel a little tricky. Underworld Shadow Finger, one finger to shock the heavens and earth. With a cold snort, Su Tianliang stretched out his right index finger and pointed at the void. The surrounding vitality boiled and the space distorted. Above the void behind him, a huge hole suddenly split open. A huge black finger that was nearly 1,000 feet long slowly stretched out. The power of Su Tianliang's dark shadow finger was much stronger than Su Tianliang's. Just the aura of the first finger was already more powerful than the second finger that Su Tianliang had just used. The sword light domain was like countless hurricanes. Wrapped in sharp sword lights, it suddenly blasted toward the huge black finger that was descending from the void. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound rolled out. The surrounding space instantly collapsed. The resulting ripples formed a ring-shaped air wave that overflowed in all directions. A tragic aura surged out. The revolving heaven sword dance 9 consecutive moves was the most powerful move of the infinite sword aura. The sword light trembled slightly, but it did not fall. Instead, the surrounding powerful sword lights continued to cut the huge black finger in the void. Chapter 465. Escape. Su Tianliang's pupils shrank when he saw that the dark shadow finger was instantly destroyed. He did not expect that Zhuowen's sword light domain would be so powerful that it could not even withstand the first finger of the dark shadow finger. The might of an initial grade 4 mental energy coupled with a grade 4 origin array is indeed extraordinary. It actually broke Su Tianliang's dark nether finger. Zhuowen, who was fleeing in front, looked at the dissipating dark nether finger and said with a joyful expression, "A mere grade 4 origin array dares to stop me? Second finger weeps ghosts and gods. Break it." Just as the dark shadow finger dissipated, Su Tianliang's roar, which was filled with killing intent, resounded through the sky. In an instant, the sky changed color. Rumble. The dark clouds in the sky dissipated and the fog was annihilated. A huge hole exploded in the void and a black finger, which was like a 1,000 feet tall mountain, slowly emerged from the hole. The 1,000 feet tall finger was surrounded by a strange black gas and countless ghosts were faintly discernible. The terrifying wails of ghosts and howls of wolves resounded through the sky. When the 1,000 feet tall finger appeared, the surrounding thousands of feet of space collapsed, forming countless vacuum zones. The second finger of the dark shadow finger was actually so powerful. Just the aura it revealed could actually collapse space. Bang, bang, bang. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The 1,000 feet tall finger pointed at the void and directly pointed at the countless sword light domain below. The powerful force actually shattered countless black forests below. Countless holes appeared on the ground and the earth cracked. Clang, clang, clang. The sword light domain formed by the revolving heaven sword dance 9 consecutive moves was like a whirlpool in water. The spiraling power strangled all the surrounding space. Countless sword lights flickered and the sound of metal clashing continuously resounded. In the blink of an eye, the 1,000 feet tall finger and the sword light domain collided. The surroundings immediately collapsed and a ring-shaped black hole appeared. A powerful suction force was continuously transmitted from the black hole. Buzz. A shrill sword howl resounded through the heavens and the earth, and the sword light domain that covered an extremely wide area actually collapsed directly. Countless sword lights dispersed and transformed into 108 sword-shaped spirit treasures that had a dim luster, and they wailed in unison before flying back into Zhuowen's Jiankuan pouch. Zhuowen's mind trembled violently when his infinite sword force was thwarted. He let out a muffled groan as a trace of cherry-red blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He didn't dare to stay here any longer as he turned into a lightning shadow and fled forward again. "Yuan, you can't escape." Although your mental energy is at the initial grade 4 spirit realm, if you meet an ordinary 3-wheel ultimate emperor realm warrior, you would not be in such a sorry state. But unfortunately you met me. Seeing Zhuowen spurting out blood and fleeing, Su Tianliang laughed heartily. Then he stamped his foot on the void and continued to chase after Zhuowen like an arrow leaving the bowstring. Originally, the two of them were several hundred feet apart. But Zhuowen's speed had obviously decreased because the sword light domain had been broken. In 3 breaths, the two of them were only 50 feet apart. Yuan, who was in front, could even hear the rustling of Su Tianliang's clothes fluttering behind him. That sound directly made Zhuowen's scalp tingle. "Boy, Su Tianliang is less than 50 feet away from you. Now, you must use your last natal talisman to completely stop him." Xiao Hei's dignified voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a trace of helplessness. He had just obtained the natal talisman not long ago. Unexpectedly, he had to use it consecutively today. This naturally made Zhuan feel extremely pained. Su Tianliang leaped again and closed the distance between him and Zhuan. This distance was slowly shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. 50 feet, 40 feet, 30 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet. Don't use your natal talisman. Otherwise, if you are really caught by Su Tianliang, even if you use it, it will be useless. Xiao Hei's voice became somewhat exasperated and even a little cold. AI. Got it. Feeling that the aura behind him was extremely close, Zhuowen's heart was filled with helplessness. His right hand took out a golden talisman that appeared in his palm. Immediately, Zhuowen directly crushed it. Suddenly, countless rays of light burst out. A golden barrier instantly appeared behind Zhuowen. Golden light overflowed in all directions. It was as hard as steel and surging aura constantly flowed out. What is this? Su Tianliang was caught off guard and directly crashed into the golden barrier. He could not help but take a few steps back and his pupils slightly shrank. Humph! No matter what this is, break it for me. With a cold snort, Su Tianliang's right hand formed into a claw. Boundless heaven and earth energy swept out and slammed into the golden barrier in front of him. With a rumble, the golden barrier collapsed and turned into countless rays of golden light. Boom, 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 boom. Su Tianliang was like a hot knife through butter. It was almost as if he could directly shatter the golden barrier in front of him with a single claw. This scene caused Zhuowen's heart to beat wildly. The golden barrier formed by the natal talisman was extremely powerful. It was enough to trap an early-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. However, in Su Tianliang's hands, it was like tofu and shattered with a single claw. This truly caused Zhuowen's jaw to drop. After shattering all the golden barriers, Su Tianliang's momentum did not decrease. He directly swept toward Zhuowen at a speed that was even faster than before. He did not want to play a game of cat and mouse with Zhuowen anymore. He wanted to capture Zhuowen alive as soon as possible. Humph! A life talisman amulet does not only have this much power. Su Tianliang's strength caused Zhuowen's pupils to shrink. He hurriedly formed a series of seals with both hands. The golden talisman in his hand burned like fire and turned into a rain of light. The dense rain of light condensed above the void and finally turned into a golden figure that resembled a god descending to the mortal world. This was the move that Lu Che had used before. Boom! As soon as the golden figure appeared, he took a step in the void. His right fist formed streaks of blazing golden light. It was like a small sun as it blasted towards Su Tianliang, who was behind him. Get lost! Su Tianliang's face was full of impatience. After chasing Zhuowen for so many times to no avail, Su Tianliang had gradually lost his patience. Now that he saw the golden figure recklessly provoking him, he was naturally infuriated. His right hand formed into a claw and Su Tianliang directly grabbed at the golden figure's fist. Boom! Countless forces flew and the space shattered into a vacuum. Su Tianliang's face changed slightly. The power of the golden figure was somewhat beyond his imagination. He could not help but take a few steps back. The golden figure was much more miserable than Su Tianliang. His right arm was directly shattered into countless golden lights. He was directly sent flying more than 10 meters away before he could barely stand still. Seeing this scene, Zhuowen's face became even more unsightly. Previously, Yuan had worked himself to death to barely defeat the golden figure. However, Su Tianliang's ordinary blow caused such severe damage to the golden figure. This made Zhuowen's heart sink slightly. I have to directly stimulate all the potential of the golden figure. Otherwise, I can't block it at all. Gritting his teeth, Yuan pinched his sword finger with his right hand. The surging power of heaven and earth poured into the body of the golden figure in the void like a tide. The golden figure roared to the sky. Golden light burst out from his body like a scorching sun and gradually grew. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, 500 feet. In the end, the golden figure turned into a 500 feet tall golden giant. It was like a vast mountain. Every step it took caused the entire valley to shake. With a wave of its hand, the forest below was turned into powder. Its power was vast and mighty. Go! After stimulating the potential of the golden figure, Yuan did not stop. The thunder wings on his back suddenly opened and closed. He directly disappeared into the depths of the forest. Zhuowen! You can't escape. Su Tianliang roared angrily. He stomped his foot and wanted to chase after Zhuan. Unfortunately, the golden giant would not let him do as he wished. Boom! The mountain-like golden fist directly crossed in front of Su Tianliang. The golden light burst and turned into countless light rain that enveloped Su Tianliang. Get out of my way! Seeing that Zhuan was about to disappear from his sight, Su Tianliang's face was ferocious. He pointed his right finger and shouted, "One finger shocks the world, 2 fingers weep ghosts and gods." Boundless vital chi surged, and 2 cracks appeared in the void. 2 mountain-like black fingers appeared and descended with a rumble, directly bombarding the golden giant's body, blasting it into countless rays of golden light. After dealing with the golden giant cleanly, Su Tianliang's eyes were red. He stomped his foot on the void and directly chased in the direction of Zhuowen's escape. In the dense forest thousands of miles away, Su Tianliang stomped his foot and stopped. He looked around and his face became more ferocious. Because when he arrived here, Zhuowen's aura had disappeared directly, as if it had never appeared. Su Tianliang roared to the sky. Countless black vital chi burst out from his body. Like a huge mountain, it directly descended. The dense forest thousands of feet below directly turned into tragic ruins. You can't escape. No matter where you go, as long as you are still in the vital chi tower, you will be hunted down endlessly by me, Su Tianliang. You're dead. A thunderous voice reverberated between heaven and earth. Su Tianliang's gloomy eyes swept the area below. He stomped his foot and directly left the place. However, Su Tianliang did not notice that in the ruins below, there was an insignificant small stone that did not turn into powder under the energy just now. Instead, it was intact. If he had noticed it, he might have suspected that there was something wrong with the stone. It seems that Su Tianliang has really left. A weak voice rang out from within the pebble. Shortly after, the pebble began to expand. In the end, it transformed into a black castle that was dozens of meters tall. This black castle was the Nether Castle that Zhuowen had obtained from the Nether King. The Netherworld Castle's sturdiness was comparable to an earthly soul treasure. Although Su Tianliang's large-scale attack was powerful, it was not enough to destroy the Netherworld Castle. Thanks to the Netherworld Castle's ability to shrink and enlarge. If I didn't hide in the castle, I'm afraid it would be difficult to escape Su Tianliang's search. Chapter 466. A gloomy Su Chang. The enormous worldly monolith stood silently on the platform at the top of the mountain. Countless figures moved about on the platform, their gazes focused on the monolith. Suddenly, 3 rays of golden light rose from the surface of the monolith like scorching suns before quickly dimming. The location of the golden light was the heaven stage region. The sudden change on the worldly monolith caused an uproar on the platform. What's going on? Why are there 3 rays of golden light rising from the heaven stage region? Did another 3 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators die? This is getting stranger and stranger. In the past battles for the Origin Chi Tower, those who reached the Ultimate Emperor Realm basically never died in the Dark Forest. After all, as long as they were careful, they should be able to pass through the Dark Forest without a hitch. That's right. This time is really strange. Including Chu Baking, Lu Che, and these 3 people, there are probably 4 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators who have already died. I wonder who these 3 people are? The golden light receded, revealing the names of Su Qian, Su Ri, and Su Yan. Behind their names were the forces of the House of Baichuan. The sound of people sucking in cold air rose one after another from the crowd on the platform. Soon after, everyone rubbed their eyes and stared closely at the words House of Marquis Baichuan behind Su Qian's name. After confirming that they did not see wrongly, the originally restless crowd suddenly became noisy and restless. They're actually from the House of Baichuan. I never thought that the geniuses who died this time would be from the House of Baichuan. This is too inconceivable. That's right. Moreover, 3 second-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm geniuses had died in one go. This was a little too shocking. I know that Su Qian. I heard that he's an extremely powerful genius even in the House of Baichuan. He's a mid-ultimate emperor realm cultivator. What? A second wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator. How could a cultivator with such strength die in the dark forest? Who could be so fierce as to kill Su Qian? Su Chang, who was standing in front of the group and chatting with the other four magnates, clenched his right fist when he saw the three names on the heaven and earth tablet. The smile on his face froze. Lu Nantian, the master of the meteorite, Xinyuan Li, and Qinya also noticed the strange expression on Su Chang's face. Their gazes shifted slightly and gathered on the worldly monolith. When they saw Su Qian and the other two's names dim down, they were stunned and frowned slightly. They naturally knew Su Qian and the other two. All three of them possessed pretty good natural talent in Marquis Baichuan's estate, especially Su Qian. He was only 23 years old, yet he'd already reached the mid-second wheel of the ultimate emperor realm. He could be considered as a genius that Marquis Baichuan's estate had focused on nurturing. However, the three of them had fallen at the same time. Naturally, the five of them were puzzled. Although the dark forest was indeed filled with danger, any second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator would be able to pass through the dark forest smoothly if they were careful. However, they were surprised that all three of them had died in the dark forest. Su Qian was a mid-second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, and Su Ri and Su Yen were both early second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivators. How could the three of them have died together? Could they have been killed? Su Chang said in a heavy voice. Su Chang's face was extremely gloomy right now. Although Marquis Baichuan's estate was one of the 5 superpowers of the provincial capital, it was still difficult to nurture a second-wheel ultimate emperor realm cultivator, especially one who was so young and talented. It was even more exhausting. Now that 3 of them had died, Su Chang naturally felt pained. At the same time, he was furious. He knew that the dark forest alone wasn't enough to kill the 3 of them. The only possibility was that they had been killed. Brother Su, are you so sure that the 3 of them were killed? And not died in the dark forest? Lu Nantian frowned slightly. Brother Lu, has any of the geniuses of our 5 superpowers died in the dark forest in the past? Su Chang asked in a low voice. Lu Nantian was slightly stunned, and then he shook his head. No one has died in the dark forest, but we can't rule out accidents. After all, anything can happen in the dark forest. Brother Lu, you don't have to comfort me. Our 5 superpowers know the dark forest better than anyone else. I've even prepared many routes to the Mountain of Trials. As long as Su Qian and the others followed the routes, they wouldn't have encountered any danger. Now that they've died, they must have been killed by someone, Su Chang said in a hoarse voice. Lu Nantian smiled bitterly and shook his head. Su Chang was right, but what surprised him was that cultivators generally wouldn't get into a conflict in the dark forest. After all, the cultivator's goal was basically to reach the Mountain of Trials. Getting into a conflict in the dark forest ahead of time wasn't beneficial. Your Marquis of Baichuan's residence's Su Qian is at the mid-ultimate emperor stage. He's not weak, and there aren't many people who can kill him. Su Qian, Su Ri, and Su Yen died at the same time. Obviously, the 3 of them were together at the time. Being able to kill the 3 of them in one fell swoop isn't something an ordinary person can do, the master of the meteorite nodded. I'll investigate. How dare you kill people from my Marquis of Baichuan's residence? If I find out, Su Chang, won't show any mercy, Su Chang snorted coldly. As soon as Su Chang finished speaking, a blazing golden light burst out from the worldly monolith. When the golden light dimmed, the name displayed appeared in everyone's eyes. The entire platform fell silent. This was because the person who died this time was extremely powerful and famous. He was the second genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, and also the second son of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence, Su Liang. The silence only lasted for a moment before a heated uproar suddenly broke out. It even reached an unprecedented climax. Everyone had already realized that something was wrong. Even Su Liang has died? That's too shocking. Su Liang is a mid-ultimate emperor stage cultivator and the second genius of the Marquis of Baichuan's residence. How could he die just like that? Su Liang and Su Qian actually died one after another. With how cautious they were, they probably didn't die in the dark forest. It's very likely that they were killed by someone. Killed by someone? Su Liang's group of 4 could be considered top-notch existences amongst all the geniuses in this Origin Chi Tower battle. How many people can kill them? Everyone had already realized that it was very likely that Su Liang's group of 4 had been killed by someone. However, what level of strength did the murderer possess to be able to kill Su Liang's group of 4? So many people started to guess the identity of the murderer. Of course, the identity of the murderer was basically locked onto by everyone as one of the 5 super forces. After all, it was impossible for the other forces to have geniuses of such strength apart from the geniuses of the 5 super forces. Su Chang, who was at the front of the group, was stunned on the spot after seeing Su Liang's death. His hands trembled as he roared in a low voice, "Don't let me find you. Once I find you, I'll make you beg for death." Lu Nanshan's group of 4 silently looked at the ferocious Marquis of Baichuan without saying a word. Marquis Baichuan's emotions were extremely unstable right now, so they didn't dare to provoke him. At the same time, they were extremely puzzled. Who would be so bold as to kill Su Liang's group of 4? In the dark forest, a ghostly figure flashed past, shuttling through the forest at lightning speed. When the figure arrived at an open space, he took a step and stopped. In the middle of the open space, Hong Lian was silently sitting cross-legged to heal her injuries. When she saw someone come over, her expression immediately became nervous and she shouted, "Who is it?" "It's me, Yi." A clear voice sounded. In the shadows of the dense forest, a figure with a bloody spear on his back slowly walked out. It was Zhuan who had rushed back. At this moment, Zhuan's face was extremely pale and bloodless. There was even a faint trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. "Zhuan." After seeing that it was Zhuan, Hong Lian let out a sigh of relief. However, after seeing Zhuan's complexion, she hurriedly came to Zhuan's side and asked, "Are you all right? Just now, I saw you go out to chase after Su Liang. You made a lot of noise. What happened in the end?" Forcefully suppressing the injuries in his body, Tuan said indifferently, "Su Liang has been killed by me." Hearing this, Hong Lian's beautiful eyes trembled. Although she knew that Su Liang was no longer a match for Zhuan after knowing that Zhuan was a grade 4 Arcana Master, her heart still trembled when she heard the news of Su Liang's death. You should be a grade 4 Arcana Master. With Su Liang's strength, he shouldn't be able to injure you like this, right? Looking at Zhuan's weak appearance, Hong Lian asked cautiously. "I met Su Tenliang. Well, I need to recuperate first. Don't disturb me. After I suppress the injuries in my body, I will take you to see Miss Clear Lotus." With that, Zhuan did not waste his breath. He found a place at random, sat down cross-legged, and began to recuperate silently. Su Tenliang's strength was too strong. Although he had escaped from the former's pursuit with great difficulty, the injuries in his body were extremely serious. His internal organs were almost ruptured and bleeding, and dozens of bones in his body were broken. If he did not have the Heart of Hades, which had an extremely abnormal recovery ability, he would have died long ago. It was even more impossible for him to survive until Hong Lian arrived. "Su Tenliang, I won't let this matter rest so easily." A cold light flashed in his eyes. Zhuan sat down cross-legged and began to use the recovery ability of the Heart of Hades to heal the damaged organs and internal injuries in his body. "Su Tianliang?" Hong Lian was stunned. She did not expect that Zhuan would encounter Su Tianliang on the way. Moreover, looking at Zhuan's current appearance, although quite miserable, he rushed back in one piece. Obviously, Yuan had escaped from Su Tianliang's hands. To be able to escape from Su Tianliang's hands, how strong is Zhuan? Chapter 467. 2 Wheels. Mid-Ultimate Emperor stage. In the pitch-black night, the dark forest was filled with chilly winds and black mist, creating a mournful and eerie atmosphere. The surging bonfire was like a bright lamp in the darkness, flickering and pulsing. It seemed somewhat warm and cozy in this silent night. A beautiful figure gently stirred the bonfire with her slender hands. Her quick-witted eyes glanced at an empty space to her right from time to time. There was undisguised worry in the depths of her eyes. There was a slender figure quietly sitting cross-legged there. It's been 8 hours, but Juan doesn't seem to have moved at all. Could something have happened to him? Hong Lian muttered worriedly as she absent-mindedly stirred the bonfire. Ever since Zhuowen had saved her, killed Su Liang, and escaped from Su Tianliang's clutches, Red Lotus had unconsciously revered this man who was about the same age as her. After all, Red Lotus was only in the prime of her youth. She always had many beautiful fantasies in her mind. Zhuowen was the same age as her, but he possessed such strength. Moreover, he had saved her from Su Liang's hands. This naturally caused Hong Lian to have a favorable impression of Zhuowen. It was this favorable impression that caused Hong Lian's eyes to involuntarily gather on that slender figure. I wonder what type of girl Zhuowen likes? What am I thinking? It's too embarrassing. Hong Lian couldn't help muttering to herself as she stared at Zhuowen's back. However, when she realized that she had misspoken, she immediately covered her mouth with her hands. Her large eyes secretly glanced at Zhuowen's back. She only sighed softly when she discovered that Zhuowen didn't seem to have noticed. Boom! Just as Red Lotus was blushing and letting her imagination run wild, an extremely powerful aura suddenly surged out. Like a tide, it enveloped the entire open space. What a powerful aura! This aura? Is Zhuowen about to break through? Hong Lian was startled. She turned her beautiful eyes and stared at Zhuowen, who was not far away. This extremely powerful aura was coming from Zhuowen, and she was no stranger to this aura. It was the aura that erupted when one broke through. This powerful aura came and went quickly. When it was completely withdrawn, Zhuowen, who had been sitting motionless, slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were as bright as the stars, bright and full of spirit, as if he could see through the vicissitudes of the world. Breakthrough! Under the stimulation of a life and death crisis, I actually unknowingly made a breakthrough in the process of healing. Everything happened naturally. Feeling the surging aura in his body, Yuan showed a happy smile. It seemed that being chased by Su Tianliang was not all bad. Zhuowen's cultivation had already reached the peak of the early stage of the second wheel extreme emperor realm. Due to the stimulation of his life and death situation, breaking through to the mid-stage of the second wheel extreme emperor realm was only natural. Yuan, congratulations, you've actually broken through. Hong Lian had suddenly arrived before Zhuowen at some point in time. Her lively eyes stared straight at Zhuowen's handsome face. Her pretty face was filled with a happy smile, as if she was even happier about Zhuowen's breakthrough than she was about her own. Zhuowen was slightly surprised by the intimate smile on the girl's pretty face. It seemed that he had not interacted much with Hong Lian, so why was she treating him like he was an acquaintance? As if she felt Zhuowen's gaze that was sizing her up, a wisp of red appeared on Hong Lian's fair face, and she revealed the posture of a little woman. She lowered her head and clasped her hands together, and she became slightly bashful. Zhuowen naturally didn't know what Red Lotus was thinking. In addition to the joy of breaking through, he didn't care about Red Lotus's attitude. Instead, he nodded and said, "Now that my injuries are mostly healed, I'll bring you to find Miss Clear Lotus now." The bashfulness on Hong Lian's face immediately vanished when she heard that he was looking for Qing Lian. She wrapped her arms around Zhuowen's shoulders and said urgently, "You're right. We have to find senior sister Qing Lian quickly. She's done too much for me." Whether it was intentional or not, a shockingly soft feeling passed through Zhuowen's arms and into his nerves, causing his heart to skip a beat. As if she could feel the awkward expression on Zhuowen's face, Hong Lian realized that her actions were a little inappropriate. She cried out softly and quickly let go of Zhuowen's shoulders. She lowered her head with a red face, not daring to look at Zhuowen. Looking at Hong Lian's attitude, Yuan could faintly guess Hong Lian's thoughts. Hong Lian was young and looked inexperienced. When she was at her most desperate and lonely moment, Yuan appeared and saved her. This was undoubtedly a bright light in the darkness, causing Hong Lian to be filled with hope. It was this hope that caused Hong Lian to have an unusually good impression of Zhuowen. There was even a trace of dependence. Shaking his head, Yuan threw away the wild thoughts in his mind. His heart was now filled with Mu Chenxue. He only wanted to enter the Divine Academy as soon as possible and meet the beauty. However, this journey was extremely long, so Jun was not in the mood to talk about love. Let's go. Miss Qing Lian is not too far away from here. We should be able to reach her place in about an hour. Taking another look at Hong Lian, Yun took a slight step and directly rushed towards Qing Lian's location with Hong Lian. Due to the fact that he had the reverse spirit puppet, Yun basically followed the connection between his mind and the reverse spirit puppet to find Qing Lian's location. He did not take any detours in the process and quickly arrived at the open space where Qing Lian was. At this moment, in the corner of the open space, Qing Lian was sitting on the ground uneasily. Although Yun was quite strong, Su Liang was not so easy to deal with. Therefore, she was still extremely anxious and worried in her heart. Although she was extremely worried in her heart, what made her helpless was that her injuries were too serious. Now, when she activated the heaven and earth energy in her body, she could feel a blocking force. It could be said that she did not have the strength to truss a chicken. It was useless even if she rushed over. Her beautiful eyes glanced at the reverse spirit puppet that had been guarding her not far away. She knew that as long as the puppet was fine, it meant that Juon was not dead. The worry in her heart lessened a lot. She muttered to herself, I hope that Jun can save junior sister Hong Lian from Su Liang's hands. Rustle, rustle. The light sound of clothes rubbing against leaves slowly rang out. Qing Lian's beautiful eyes shrank slightly. Her eyes, which were originally filled with sadness and worry, suddenly became sharp. She turned her head slightly and coldly said, Who is it? I have already discovered you. Why are you still not coming out? Senior sister. It's us. A clear voice came from the darkness. Immediately, a fiery red figure quickly rushed over and instantly pounced on Qing Lian. It was Hong Lian who had rushed over. Hong Lian? Is it really you? When she saw this fiery red figure, the coldness in Qing Lian's eyes slowly dissipated. The corners of her mouth even revealed a trace of surprise and adoration. She patted Hong Lian's shoulder, and her face was filled with an excited smile. Thank you so much. I really did not expect that you could actually save Hong Lian from Su Liang. It seems that our Jade Lady Star Court owes you a favor. Qing Lian's beautiful eyes moved slightly. Her gaze converged on the slender figure in the shadows of the forest behind her. Her pretty face was filled with gratitude and admiration. Miss Qing Lian is too polite. I already owe you a few favors. It is only natural that I help you. Jun slowly walked out of the shadows. His slightly handsome face was filled with a tranquil smile. His somewhat deep and gentle eyes looked directly at Qing Lian. Looking at Zhuo Wen's eyes that were as deep as the starry sky, Qing Lian could not help but shift her beautiful eyes slightly. A trace of an alluring crimson blush appeared on her cheeks. Fortunately, Qing Lian was a calm and steady person. She quickly concealed the unnaturalness on her face and said with a smile, Actually, I only helped you because I valued your potential. Now, it seems that my investment back then was really the right one. Whether it is an investment or a sincere one, as long as you help me, Zhuan will naturally repay you. This is my principle. Zhuan shook his head seriously. From Zhuo Wen's point of view, help was help. No matter what the other party's intentions were, at least the other party had extended a helping hand to him. In that case, this was kindness. Kindness was as heavy as a mountain. No matter how heavy it was, Zhuowen would remember this kindness and repay it. Senior sister. Brother Zhuowen is very powerful. He was the one who killed Su Liang and saved me. Red Lotus also stared at Zhuowen and said with a smile. Yes. Zhuowen is indeed powerful. Being able to save you from Su Liang's hands is not something an ordinary person can do. What? Su Liang is dead? Originally, Qing Lian wanted to agree with Red Lotus' words. However, she seemed to have realized something. Her beautiful eyes stared at Red Lotus and exclaimed, Yes, Brother Zhuowen killed him with his own hands. That's right. Brother Zhuowen is also a level 4 Arcana Master. He killed Su Liang by relying on his powerful mind power. Seeing Qing Lian's surprised gaze, Red Lotus' face also revealed an excited smile. She looked as if she was recounting her glorious deeds. She seemed proud and happy. What? A level 4 Arcana Master? This time, Qing Lian was really shocked. She turned her head and her pupils shrank as she stared at the smiling young man in front of her. Her heart was in a mess. Originally, in her opinion, Yuan being able to save Red Lotus from Su Liang's hands was already extremely amazing. However, she did not expect that Zhuan would be able to kill Su Liang directly. Moreover, he was a level 4 Arcana master. This shocking fact naturally made Qing Lian feel a trace of disbelief. She knew much more than anyone else about the rarity and nobility of a level 4 Arcana master. Although their status was not comparable to that of a noble, their reputation was greater than that of a noble and they were more revered by many warriors. However, how old was this young man in front of her? He was only 18 or 19 years old. Being able to become a level 3 Arcana master at this age was already shocking. However, Yuan had directly become a level 4 Arcana master. Red Lotus seemed to be very satisfied with Qing Lian's expression. She giggled and continued, "Not only that, Brother Zhuowen even met Su Tianliang and escaped from his hands." Escaped from Su Tianliang's hands? Chapter 468. Entering the trial mountain with a wry smile, Qing Lian finally realized that from the beginning to the end, she had completely failed to recognize the strength of the young man in front of her. She didn't know why, but Zhuan always gave her a hazy feeling. She clearly thought that she had seen through Zhuowen, but in the next moment, she would discover that she was actually very wrong. In fact, she had never seen through Zhuowen. Yuan may be the biggest dark horse in this battle for the Vitality Tower. Withdrawing her gaze, Qing Lian sighed and muttered to herself. Glancing at Qing Lian imperceptibly, Yuan found that although Qing Lian's injuries were quite serious, they were actually not too big of a problem. With the secret medicine of their Jade Lady Star Court, she would be able to fully recover in 3 days. Nodding, Yuan said with a faint smile, "Qing Lian, Hong Lian, the two of you don't seem to have any serious problems, so I am relieved. Therefore I plan to part ways here." Since he had already solved the problem of Qing Lian and Hong Lian, Yuan naturally did not intend to go to the trial mountain with them. After all, the two of them were going to different passages. Sooner or later, they would part ways. Qing Lian and Hong Lian revealed a sliver of disappointment when they heard this. However, Qing Lian was comparatively more composed. She smiled and said, "It's all thanks to you for saving my life this time. I will remember this kindness." Nodding his head, Zhuowen suddenly said solemnly, "Regarding the matter of me killing Su Liang, I hope the two of you won't reveal it. Although Su Tianliang already knows about this matter, with Su Tianliang's character, he won't publicize this matter. So as long as you don't say it, not too many people will know about it. Otherwise, it will cause trouble." Hearing this, the two women nodded seriously. Qing Lian cautiously said, "You can rest assured. I will never reveal this matter. Also, you have to be careful of Su Tianliang. This person's methods and character are extremely sinister. You'd better be on guard." "I know." Slightly nodding his head, Zhuowen waved his hand at the two girls. Taking a step forward, he turned into a shadow and disappeared from where he was, heading straight for the trial mountain. There was only half a month left until the trial mountain opened. He had to hurry over. Looking at Zhuowen's departing figure, a hint of disappointment appeared on Hong Lian's pretty face. She sighed softly and said, "Why did Big Brother Zhuowen leave so quickly? He can go through the dark forest with us, and it won't be too late to part ways then." "Silly girl. Zhuowen, he is actually helping us. Now that he has provoked Su Tianliang must be frantically searching for him in the dark forest. If the three of us go together, the target is too big, and the probability of being discovered by Su Tianliang is much higher. Speaking of which, Yuan wants to bear Su Tianliang's anger alone." As she spoke, Qing Lian stared at the departing figure with a complicated gaze. She sighed softly. With her meticulous mind, how could she not see through Zhuowen's purpose in hurrying to separate? It was just that she did not expose him. But Big Brother Zhuowen, he is doing this for us. Hong Lian suddenly realized, and the disappointment on her pretty face suddenly disappeared. It was replaced by a sweet smile and a trace of worry. Time passed day by day, and the number of cultivators in the dark forest became fewer and fewer. Most of them had already rushed to the entrance of the training mountain and were waiting outside. 10 days later, on the branch of a towering tree at the edge of the dark forest, a slender figure stood quietly. He raised his head slightly and looked straight at the huge training mountain that almost reached the clouds in front of him. His face revealed a trace of emotion. I finally arrived at the training mountain. This time, the dark forest was not easy. Looking at the training mountain not far away, Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of a smile. After separating from Qing Lian and Qing Lian, Zhuowen rushed to the training mountain without stopping. Because of Xiao He, Zhuowen's speed was almost as fast as it could be. He did not stop at all along the way, and because it was Xiao He's divine sense, Zhuowen deliberately avoided Su Tianliang's vicinity and tried to stay as far away from Su Tianliang as possible. Because of this, after passing through the dark forest, Zhuowen did not encounter Su Tianliang, who was still searching in the dark forest. Outside the dark forest was a vast plain. At the end of the plain was the vast training mountain, quietly standing between the heavens and the earth. In the plain, Zhuowen even saw many flashing figures. Obviously, they were all cultivators who had come out of the dark forest. I really don't know what kind of good things will be in this training mountain. It would be best if there is a monarch rank body tempering technique. With a grin, Zhuowen also flew through the plain towards the training mountain. After about half an hour, Zhuowen had already arrived at the foot of the training mountain. There was a huge stone arch at the foot of the trial mountain. The arch was completely white and translucent, and there was a plaque at the top of the arch. On the plaque, the words North 99 were written in calligraphy. It was the passage that Zhuowen wanted to go to. Thousands of miles away from the training mountain, there were similar stone arches. These two arches should be the passages North 98 and North 100. In front of the stone arch was a medium-sized open space. At this time, there were many people gathered in the open space. At a glance, there should be nearly 100 people, each with an extraordinary aura. It seems that these people are the same as me. The bamboo sticks they drew are all North 99. The trial mountain will open in 5 days, so I'll just wait here for 5 days. After casually glancing at the people in the open space, Zhuowen found a corner as if nothing had happened and sat down cross-legged on the ground. He had no intention of paying attention to the others. With Zhuowen's current mental strength, he discovered that the strongest of the 100 people here was only a late first-wheel Ultimate King Realm cultivator. Most of them were half-step Ultimate King Realm cultivators. There was no one worthy of his attention at all. Zhuowen's arrival naturally attracted the gazes of everyone in the open space. When they sensed the aura on Zhuowen's body, their pupils constricted. Extreme fear appeared in their eyes. A second-wheel Ultimate King Realm cultivator? This person is actually a second-wheel Ultimate King Realm cultivator? How unlucky. We've actually been assigned to this passage. Won't it be difficult to get the good stuff then? I know this person. I think he's Zhuowen from Rattan Armor City. I saw him during the World Monolith test. He left a deep impression on me. Now that you mention it, you're right. What's the background of Rattan Armor City? It's clearly just a low-level city. How did they nurture a second-wheel Ultimate King Realm cultivator? And isn't this Zhuowen a little too young? He doesn't look older than 20 at all. I can only say that this person is a monster. The main reason he's able to develop so much in a low-level city is probably because of his terrifying talent. The gazes of the other cultivators in the open space all converged on Zhuowen as they discussed animatedly. The originally silent open space was now quite noisy. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. When the sun slowly rose into the sky, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. He stared straight at the stone arch in front of him. He knew that the trial mountain was about to open. The other cultivators in the open space also stared at the stone arch with burning gazes. They all stood up, eager to give it a try. Their expressions were excited. It's finally opening. The treasures on the trial mountain are much more numerous than on the first floor of the Origin Chi Tower. As long as you can go deep into the mountain, the rewards will be extremely generous. There were even quite a few cultivators who couldn't help but mutter to themselves. Although their voices weren't loud, cultivators naturally heard them clearly with their powerful hearing. The distant sound of a bell echoed in everyone's ears. Soon after, a deep and solemn voice reverberated between heaven and earth. The trial mountain has opened. Participants outside the passage, come in. As the voice faded, the originally tightly shut stone arch split open from the middle. What appeared in front of everyone was a pitch-black darkness. No one knew where this darkness led to. Let's go! The stone arch is already open, what are we waiting for? As soon as the stone arch opened, someone couldn't help but step forward. He directly turned into a wisp of smoke and shot into the darkness. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With the first person's attempt, the remaining cultivators couldn't wait any longer. They all used their movement techniques and rushed into the depths of the arch like a swarm of locusts. The stone arch is so deep that I can't see the bottom. My mental energy can't find out what's inside. Zhuowen was somewhat bewildered as he stared at the pitch-black darkness behind the arch door. The moment the arch door opened, he had already stealthily sent his mental energy into the shape of a needle. However, what surprised him was that the pitch-black darkness seemed to have no end as it pulled his mental energy deeper and deeper. It's not that you can't see the bottom, but there is a space-time restriction behind the arch. This restriction is extremely powerful. Once you enter the arch, you will be transported to a certain place inside the trial mountain by the space-time restriction. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded. It even sounded a little excited and amazed. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded his head in relief. Since Xiao Hei said that it was fine, he didn't have to worry anymore. With a step, he immediately disappeared into the arch. When Zhuowen entered the arch, he actually felt as if he had entered a swamp. His body became a little sluggish, and even his thoughts slowed down by many times. This discovery immediately shocked Zhuowen. Don't worry, this is a normal phenomenon of space-time travel. Once this space-time restriction has completely transported you into the trial mountain, your situation will completely disappear. Xiao Hei's calm voice sounded in his ear, causing Zhuowen's originally restless heart to calm down. Sure enough, just as Xiao Hei said, this space-time disordered feeling only lasted for a while. Soon after, Zhuowen returned to normal. When his feet touched the thick ground, Zhuowen looked around and found that he was in a rather narrow tunnel. Torches were neatly lit on both sides of the tunnel. The dim yellow light pulled Zhuowen's shadow long. I heard Lu Nantian say that there are countless tunnels in the trial mountain, and each tunnel is different. It seems that I have been transported to one of them. After looking at the tunnel, Zhuowen muttered to himself, The inside of the trial mountain is a huge maze. The only thing you can do is to continuously move forward and break through all obstacles to find the correct path. Xiao Hei suddenly said. Chapter 469. Green Hell Origin Fruchuowen's figure swiftly shuttled through the tunnel as the natural energy within his body rapidly circulated. His body gradually tensed up as waves of powerful energy adhered to the surface of his body, just like countless squirming loaches. The training mountain was fraught with danger, and Lu Nantian had solemnly warned him before. Therefore, Zhuowen had no choice but to be cautious and not fail miserably at such an easy task. Zhuowen's figure flashed past at lightning speed. Approximately several minutes later, the seemingly endless tunnel finally came to an end. At the end of the tunnel, a large bronze door slowly appeared in Zhuowen's line of sight. Zhuowen took a deep breath as he gazed at the door. He knew that once he blasted open the bronze door, he would have to begin a difficult fight. Moreover, he would have to fight against the top geniuses of Muqin County. There was no turning back on this path, and he could only charge all the way to the end. Bang! Zhuowen's gaze gradually turned stern. Soon after, he stomped his foot and viciously punched the bronze door in front of him. Immediately, a sharp ear-piercing sound rang out. Traces of cracks gradually appeared on the surface of the bronze door. When the cracks spread to the edges, the large bronze door directly exploded, causing countless fragments to swirl in the air. However, before they could approach Zhuowen, they were all blasted to smithereens by his strength. After smashing the bronze door with a punch, Zhuowen stepped in. Behind the bronze door was an extremely spacious hall. The surface of the hall was made from bronze, giving off an icy cold feeling. Zhuowen's footsteps moved as he slowly walked towards the hall. After which, his footsteps came to a halt as his eyes narrowed as he stared at the center of the hall. All he saw was a rectangular stone platform at the center of the hall. At the top of the stone platform was a palm-sized brocade box. Swoosh! A ray of light scattered down from the top of the hall, transforming into 5 large words. Zhuowen's gaze was naturally attracted by the 5 large words as he involuntarily muttered, "Green Hell Origin Fruit." It seems that the brocade box on the stone platform contains the Azure Darkness Primordial Fruit. Although this green dark immemorial fruit is only a 4th grade spirit medicine, it is one of the best among 4th grade spirit medicines. It has the effect of increasing the 5 senses. It can be considered a rather rare spirit medicine. Xiao Hei's surprised voice sounded in his mind. Zhuan had a rather good understanding of the primordial Azure Darkness fruit. It was indeed as Xiao Hei had said. The primordial Azure Darkness fruit was extremely rare, and its effects were special. It did not increase one's origin power or heal injuries. Instead, it increased the sensitivity of one's 5 senses. A martial artist's essence, force, and injuries could be increased and healed, but the 5 senses were innate. Generally, it was very difficult to increase them, and the sharpness of the 5 senses would undoubtedly increase a martial artist's perception of some dangers in the outside world, thus allowing them to make the appropriate response. Compared to essence energy, the 5 senses were actually more important to a martial artist. After all, a martial artist with powerful 5 senses, even if his strength was weak, could still rely on his keen senses to sense danger in advance and turn misfortune into fortune. Therefore, in a sense, the primordial Azure Darkness fruit was more precious than ordinary 5th grade spirit medicines. It was an existence worth fighting over in the outside world. Therefore, after Zhuowen saw the words on the stone platform, his gaze immediately became much more fervent. This kind of spirit medicine that increased the 5 senses was extremely attractive to him. Boy! There is a layer of extremely hard restriction around the stone platform. This restriction is extremely powerful and is not something you can break, Xiao Hei suddenly said. Restriction? Hearing this, Zhuan also noticed that the surface of the stone platform was indeed covered with a layer of colorful flowing light. This layer of barrier flickered with a multicolored brilliance. Upon closer inspection, it was rather gorgeous and colorful. Is it really as exaggerated as you say? Frowning slightly, Zhuan was somewhat doubtful. He took a step forward and his right fist was already ready to strike. Accompanied by a strong wind, it whistled towards the restriction barrier in front of him. Thump, thump, thump. With a muffled groan, Zhuan involuntarily retreated a few dozen steps. He rubbed the web between his thumb and forefinger and stared in shock at the undamaged barrier in front of him. Not even a ripple had appeared on the barrier. His expression became somewhat unsightly. What a powerful restriction. I can't move it at all. He shook his head helplessly. Ha! You really are a country bumpkin. Those who come from low-level cities are all so ignorant. You actually used your fists to break the restriction on the stone platform. How naive. A cold voice sounded from the left. Tilting his head slightly, Zhuan immediately saw a cold-faced young man in blue robes slowly walk out from a large bronze door on the left. He looked at Zhuan with a mocking expression. Furnace City's Lu Hang? Seeing the blue-clothed young man slowly walk out from the large bronze door, Zhuan immediately recognized him. This person was the #1 genius of the super city, Furnace City. His strength was also at the early stage of the second wheel of the Ultimate Emperor stage. Moreover, his ranking on the Heaven and Earth tablet was slightly higher than Zhuowen's. Then tell me how to obtain the green darkness origin fruit in the box on the stone platform. Zhuan wasn't the slightest bit angered by Lu Hang's mocking attitude. Instead, he calmly stared at Lu Hang. He knew that Lu Hang was a genius from a super city after all. He would definitely know more about the situation on the trial mountain than he did. A country bumpkin will always be a country bumpkin. In any case, you're going to be eliminated by me in a bit, so I might as well tell you. Lu Hang didn't make a move. Instead, he walked until he was about 50 meters away from Zhuowen and stared at Zhuowen with narrowed eyes. Although he displayed an attitude of disdain toward Jun, Yun was still a genius of the heaven stage region. Although he came from a low-level city, he still wouldn't underestimate him. After all, anyone who could reach the ultimate emperor stage was no simple person. At this time, he had to be even more cautious and go all out. Looks like you really don't know anything? To tell you the truth, there are countless passages inside the trial mountain. At the end of each passage is a large bronze door. Opening the bronze door will lead you to a large hall similar to this one, and there will definitely be a corresponding treasure in this hall. Of course, you've seen it as well. The treasures are surrounded by restrictions. Even a ninth-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator might not be able to destroy them. So, it's basically impossible for you to destroy them on your own. And there's only one way to open the restrictions, and that is to use your opponent's mark as a key to open the restrictions. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed when he heard this. He couldn't help but look at the heaven stage imprint on his right palm. So it turned out that one had to use this kind of imprint to open the restrictions, and it had to be his opponent's imprint. In other words, you mean to say that if I want to obtain the treasures in the restrictions, I have to go all out and defeat my opponent? Zhuowen's expression was extremely calm as he spoke indifferently. You've comprehended quite quickly. So if I want to obtain the treasures here, I have to defeat you and eliminate you, hee. Lu Hang licked his cracked lips and sneered. You're that confident that you can defeat me? Yun shook his head and laughed in spite of himself. With his current strength as a mid-stage Ultimate Emperor stage cultivator, he could easily defeat Lu Hang even without using any trump cards. So Zhuowen didn't take Lu Hang seriously at all. Although your cultivation has also reached the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor stage, you're only from a low-level city. Your low-level city can't compare to our super cities in terms of armor skills, spiritual treasures, and spiritual herbs. If we're at the same level of cultivation, you'll definitely lose. Lu Hang seemed very confident. Although his cultivation was the same as Zhuowen's at the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor stage, he was confident that Zhuowen, who came from a low-level city, wouldn't have any good resources to use. He wouldn't have any powerful trump cards, so he wasn't afraid at all. In fact, he was even brimming with confidence. At this moment, on the platform at the top of the mountain, the 5 magnates and many city lords were holding their breaths as they looked at the heaven and earth monolith. There were many screens of light on the monolith. These light screens flashed with the situation in the various halls of the trial mountain. Figures flashed and extremely intense fights and collisions broke out. Clearly, these light screens were the surveillance numinous treasures that LV Nantian and the others had placed inside the trial mountain. At this moment, the images inside were being transmitted to the heaven and earth monolith. Everyone's gaze swept around and suddenly stopped on one of the screens. On that screen were Zhuowen and Lu Hang, who were facing each other from afar. After seeing the two figures clearly, everyone couldn't help but click their tongues in amazement. Their gazes became fervent and expectant. That's Lu Hang from the Super City Furnace City and Zhuowen from Rot-Tan Armor City. I didn't think that the geniuses of the heaven-level region would meet at the beginning of the mountain. Their rankings on the heaven and earth monolith are extremely close. Looks like it'll be a fierce battle. I think that Lu Hang will win. After all, Lu Hang was born in a super city. His background is much deeper than Zhuowen's Rot-Tan Armor City. In the crowd, Guyu Tian and Qiu Chou also noticed the screens of Zhuowen and Lu Hang. When they saw that Zhuowen's opponent was Lu Hang, their brows furrowed. They didn't think that Zhuowen would meet such a strong opponent at the beginning of the mountain. This could be considered extremely unlucky. Lord Gu, it looks like your Rot-Tan Armor City's luck is really bad. That Zhuowen's talent is indeed not bad, but with the pitiful background of your low-level city, how much battle power can the geniuses nurtured be able to have? A barefoot, dark-skinned man couldn't help but laugh when he looked at the screen. When he looked at Guyu Tian not far away, his eyes were full of mockery. This barefoot man was Lu Teng, the city lord of Furnace City. As the city lord of a super city, Lu Teng didn't hide his disdain and contempt for low-level cities. Although a dark horse from a low-level city had suddenly appeared in the battle for the Vitality Tower, it only moved him a little. In his opinion, this one was just a good-for-nothing. Although he was an early second-wheel Emperor realm cultivator, his true strength was probably very low. After all, how strong could a low-level city's genius be? City Lord Lu, you can't be too sure of your words. Your Lu Hang's cultivation isn't much higher than Zhuowen's. It's still unknown who will win in the end. Guyu Tian ignored the contempt on Lu Teng's face and said indifferently, "It looks like you have a lot of confidence in that Zhuowen. However, blind confidence isn't a good thing. In the end, extreme joy will turn into sorrow." Chapter 470. Devil Ape Strangulation. Guyu Tian's expression was somewhat ugly. Lu Teng's undisguised disdain was like a blade cutting at his self-esteem. However, he did not flare up. After all, compared to a super city, their Rattan armor city was insignificant. "Yuan, I believe in your strength. Although Lu Hang is powerful, you are not weak either." Guyu Tian thought to himself as he stared fervently at Zhuowen's figure on the light screen. He really hoped that Zhuowen would be able to defeat Lu Hang and let Lu Teng know that even though their Rattan armor city was a low-level city, it was not to be trifled with. To the side, Qiu Chou and Ouyang Yuntu frowned slightly. They were also not too interested in Lu Teng's words. However, this matter did not have much to do with their Broken Rock City, so the two of them could not refute him. Zhuowen and Lu Hang faced each other from a distance within the large hall. The two of them did not immediately attack. Instead, they narrowed their eyes as they sized each other up. "Yuan, my ranking on the Heaven and Earth tablet is higher than yours. This means that your overall strength is weaker than mine. Therefore, I advise you to withdraw on your own." Lu Hang opened his mouth and said, even though Lu Hang looked down on Zhuowen's birth, Yuan was still an ultimate second-wheel emperor. No matter how weak he was, he could not be too weak. He knew that if Zhuowen went all out, he was confident that he could win, but it would be a little difficult. Moreover, they had only just entered the trial mountain. If they were to go all out and get injured so early, it would be extremely disadvantageous for them in the following battles. Therefore, Lu Hang began to guide Zhuowen patiently. "I should be the one saying this. You are not my match at all. Therefore, I advise you to withdraw. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee that I will not go overboard." Boom. Zhuowen's gaze was calm like water from the beginning until the end as he took a step forward. An imposing aura that was enormous like a mountain suddenly surged out explosively from his body, and it practically formed an extremely terrifying gale in an area of over 10 m around him that whistled like the edge of a blade. Lu Hang's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he stared blankly at Tun. He said in disbelief, "You have broken through to the mid-second-wheel emperor stage?" On the platform at the top of the mountain, many city lords who were watching Zhuowen and Lu Hang on the light screen fell silent when they sensed the powerful aura exploding from Zhuowen's body. "Zhuowen has broken through to the mid-second-wheel emperor stage?" That powerful aura is indeed the mid-second-wheel emperor stage. Isn't this Zhuowen's advancement speed too fast? 2 months ago, he was only at the early stage of the second wheel of the ultimate emperor realm. How did he manage to break through in such a short time? It looks like Lu Hang is going to suffer a great loss. I'm afraid the outcome of this battle is already clear. Jun has a much higher chance of winning. Discussions and commotion rang out one after another. The platform was bustling with noise and excitement. Even the 5 magnates at the front of the group noticed the commotion behind them and focused their gazes on Zhuowen's light screen. This Zhuowen is indeed not bad. Even I did not expect his advancement speed. Lu Nantian nodded. He was becoming more and more interested in Zhuowen. The other 4 magnates nodded in agreement. Actually, the fact that Zhuowen had been able to make it this far and even break through to the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm was already enough for them to be extremely satisfied with this low-level city's genius. All 5 of them actually wanted to recruit Zhuowen into their own sphere of influence. After all, Zhuowen's talent was obvious. In the crowd, the originally confident barefoot Lu Teng's smile slowly froze when he sensed Zhuowen's powerful aura. His eyelids twitched and his expression darkened. "City Lord Lu, I've said before that we shouldn't be too confident in everything. Otherwise, we'll really be overjoyed when the time comes." At this moment, Gu Yuetian's face was filled with a gratified and pleased smile. Zhuo Wen's cultivation had broken through to the mid-stage of the second wheel emperor realm, which had greatly exceeded his expectations. He was especially pleased when he saw the stiff expression on Lu Teng's face. Lu Teng snorted coldly and stared coldly at Gu Yutian. He said indifferently, "Is the mid-second wheel emperor really that amazing? An early second wheel emperor may be able to defeat a mid-second wheel emperor." Although Lu Teng was rather surprised that Zhuo Wen's cultivation had reached the mid-second wheel emperor stage, he had given the city lord's estate's only low-grade earth-tier spirit treasure to Lu Hang for the sake of this battle for the Origin Chi Tower. Moreover, he had even taught Lu Hang a set of royal-tier armor techniques. With these two powerful trump cards, Lu Hang might actually be a mid-second wheel emperor in a real battle. On the other hand, Yuan was only a cultivator from a low-level city. He believed that Zhuan couldn't possibly possess an earth-tier spirit treasure or a set of royal-tier armor techniques. The difference between the two was extremely obvious. Even if Zhuowen's cultivation was a level higher than Lu Hang's, Lu Teng was still confident that Zhuowen wouldn't be a match for Lu Hang. Gu Yutian didn't want to argue with the arrogant Lu Teng. Instead, he stared fixedly at the screen of light. In reality, he was also feeling rather uneasy and uncertain. Within the hall, Lu Hang looked at Zhuowen in front of him with uncertainty. He said fearfully, "I really didn't expect you to have broken through. However, if you think you can defeat me just because your cultivation is a level higher than mine, then you really are a little laughable." With that, Lu Hang took a step forward and slapped his Qiankuan bag. He pulled out a black spear. As soon as the spear appeared, it emitted an aura that seemed to distort space itself. An earth-tier spirit treasure? Zhuowen raised his eyebrows. He could sense that the aura on the black spear wasn't any weaker than Su Liang's black dragon halberd. It should also be a low-grade earth-tier spirit treasure. "You're quite knowledgeable, but, whoosh." Before Lu Hang could finish his words, he actually made the first move. His right hand slapped the long spear, and with a stomp of his foot, his entire body turned into a strange arc as he charged directly at Zhuo Wen. His speed was so fast that it almost formed a sharp sound in the air. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely be caught off guard by Lu Hang's sudden attack. However, Zhuo Wen's lips curled into a sneer. Clang. He extended his right hand to his back and suddenly pulled it out. A blood light turned into a huge blood spear in his palm. He held the handle of the blood spear with both hands and swung it violently. Ding! A crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. Immediately, a ball of dazzling sparks burst out in midair. It was unknown when, but the blood-red spear had already bombarded the tip of the black spear that was sweeping towards him like a poisonous snake. The powerful force almost caused the black spear that was piercing toward Zhuowen's chest to deviate from its trajectory and shoot towards the right. On the other side of the spear, Lu Hang's face revealed a surprised expression. Zhuowen's reaction was somewhat out of his expectations. Moreover, the spear that Zhuowen casually swung out just now had actually caused his hand to go numb. He almost lost his grip on the spear in his hand. Lu Hang took a step in the air and rotated his waist 360 degrees in midair. With the help of the rotation, Lu Hang's right hand tightened, instantly causing the spear that had deviated from its trajectory to sweep towards Zhuowen's head. With a cold snort, the corners of Zhuowen's mouth were filled with coldness. He extended his left hand, and at the moment when the spear came into contact with him, he flicked his finger. A powerful force erupted and actually sent the black spear flying. Lu Hang, who was in the air, immediately became unstable. With the current strength of Zhuowen's body, even an ordinary two-wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would probably be no match for him. Therefore, Yuan didn't take Lu Hang seriously at all. After all, Lu Hang hadn't even used a single move yet. However, Lu Hang's reaction was extremely sharp. He took several steps in the air, causing ripples in the air to spread out like waves. Lu Hang flicked his right hand and the black spear shot toward Zhuowen from below. "You're looking to die." The coldness in Zhuowen's eyes grew thicker. He flicked his right foot and a powerful force erupted. His right leg slammed into the black spear like a cannonball. Ripples of air spread out, causing Lu Hang to stumble backwards. Lu Hang's expression completely changed this time. Zhuowen's strength had truly exceeded his expectations. Even a casual strike like this was enough to make him feel like Mount Tai was crashing down on him. He felt like he would be crushed to a pulp at any moment. Is this Zhuowen a freak? Why is he so strong? The spear in his right hand abruptly struck the ground, and Lu Hang barely managed to stabilize his body. His gaze toward Zhuowen was filled with fear and dread. Zhuowen, who was in front of him, gave him an illusion that he was invincible. Use whatever moves you have, or you won't have any chance later. Nguyen gently stepped forward with the blood-red spear in hand. He stared at Lu Hang indifferently. That's what you said. Lu Hang's face sank and his gaze became somewhat sinister. He swiped the spear in his right hand through the air and a surge of world energy surged into the black spear. In an instant, the black surface of the black spear became like mud and actually began to squirm. Demonic ape spear. With a low shout, Lu Hang's eyes suddenly became pitch black. Even Zhuowen felt a chill run down his spine when he saw that deep pitch black. At the same time, the black wriggling on the surface of the black spear in Lu Hang's hand finally stopped. Immediately after, it spread out in all directions. Countless pitch black dots formed a gigantic ape behind Lu Hang. The ape's eyes were exactly the same as Lu Hang's, both of them were eerily pitch black. Demonic ape spear, demonic ape strangle. Lu Hang stomped his foot and countless astral winds rushed up from under his feet. The ground cracked and countless rocks floated up. It was an extremely exaggerated and terrifying sight. With the support of the demonic ape, my strength has far surpassed yours. I'm afraid you're going to lose. Lu Hang's pitch-black eyes were completely unfocused. At this moment, they were strangely staring at Zhuowen in front of him. The corners of his mouth revealed a dark and cold smile. Lu Hang's entire body transformed into a strange black shadow and directly rushed toward Zhuowen. The demonic ape behind him also patted its chest and roared loudly. It also took large strides and rushed toward Zhuowen. Your strength has far surpassed mine? Yuan shook his head and shook the blood-red spear in his right hand. In an instant, the area several dozen meters around Zhuowen became shrouded in mist. The atmosphere became extremely strange at that moment. Chapter 471. Obtain the green darkness primordial fruit. The moment the limitless startling cloud art was unleashed, countless clouds and mist churned. The surroundings seemed to have turned into a sea of clouds and mist, with turbulent waves crashing against the waves. At the same time, Lu Hang brought the gigantic devil ape and suddenly approached Jun. With a wave of his right hand, the devil ape's muscular hand instantly smashed toward Zhuowen's figure in front of him. Boom! The ground cracked and shattered rocks flew in all directions. Energy overflowed in all directions. The astral winds formed by the palm dispersed the clouds and mist in that area. Lu Hang realized that he had pounced on empty air. Zhuowen was not here at all. Are you trying to be a coward? Lu Hang frowned. His pitch-black eyes swept across the surrounding clouds and mist as a mocking smile appeared on his lips. A coward? Lu Hang, you think too highly of yourself. A cold voice suddenly rang out. Soon after, a figure holding a large spear suddenly shot out from behind Lu Hang. Countless clouds and mist gathered, forming a gigantic cloud spear. Demon Moon's secret manual, Blood Rupture Style. The combination of the blood rupture style and the limitless startling cloud art produced an extremely powerful attack. Zhuowen had appeared at this moment to give the devil ape a fatal blow. Oh, you want to launch a sneak attack? It won't be that easy. Lu Hang sneered. With a wave of his right hand, the devil ape's gigantic hand directly grabbed at the gigantic cloud spear that was rushing towards him. Rumble! Energy swirled in the air as waves of air overflowed in all directions. Waves of terrifying ripples spread out, causing the surrounding space to show signs of instability. Break for me! Lu Hang was expressionless. His right hand pinched the air as a powerful force poured into the devil ape. Immediately, the devil ape's eyes turned blood red as the veins on its body bulged. Its strength seemed to have soared by several times. Crack! A crisp sound rang out as the cloud spear was crushed by the devil ape with a single hand, turning into countless clouds of mist. At the same time, the devil ape was not going to let Zhuowen off easily. It stomped its foot forward, and its mountain-like palm smashed toward Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen did not choose to take the attack head-on. With a kick of his feet, a ball of lightning rose from the bottom of his feet and gathered on his back, transforming into a pair of 3 feet large lightning wings. Zhuowen's entire body turned into a lightning shadow, dodging the demonic ape's attack. At the same time, Zhuowen took several steps in the air. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a human-shaped bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, he was about to close in on Lu Hang, who was below the devil ape. He knew that as long as he defeated Lu Hang, the devil ape would collapse on its own. With Zhuowen's current strength, he could easily defeat the devil ape. However, the mountain trial had only just begun. There was no need for him to reveal too much of his strength so early. Lu Hang also sensed Zhuowen's intentions. His pitch-black eyes slowly narrowed as the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. Not a bad idea. However, can you get close to me under the attack of the devil ape? Sure enough, when Zhuowen was about to get within 3 feet of Lu Hang, the mountain-like devil ape suddenly became irritable. Moreover, its aura was also rapidly increasing. The huge palm that was like a cattail leaf fan flashed in the air. Its speed had almost reached the limit. In the blink of an eye, it had actually appeared in front of Zhuowen, blocking his path like an iron wall. You want to stop me? This speed is not enough. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled slightly. Both of his hands swiftly formed a seal. Immediately, even more vigorous thunderbolts surged out from his body. Immediately, all of them gathered behind his back, and an even larger pair of lightning dragon wings grew on his back. With 2 pairs of lightning wings on his body, Zhuowen's speed had almost surpassed the speed of sound. With a swoosh, he actually bypassed the obstruction of the devil ape's palm in a strange parabola and instantly arrived in front of Lu Hang. Lu Hang, the game is over. With a faint smile, the blood-colored spear in Zhuowen's hand quickly pierced towards Lu Hang. It was like a mournful blood-colored meteor streaking across the air. Lu Hang was also surprised by Zhuowen's speed. He also did not expect Zhuowen's speed to increase by several times in an instant. However, he did not panic. This Zhuowen's strength was not much stronger than his. As long as he could hold on for a while, the devil ape would naturally arrive and finish off this Zhuowen. And? I should be the one saying this to you. Lu Hang was fearless. He swung the spear in his right hand horizontally and directly blocked Zhuowen's spear. However, when he felt the tyrannical force coming from his hands, Lu Hang immediately let out a muffled groan and repeatedly retreated over 10 steps. Finally, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. This Zhuowen's current strength seemed to be a little stronger than before. Could it be an illusion? However, Lu Hang did not have much time to think. Zhuowen's attacks were like a storm, bombarding him continuously, almost suppressing Lu Hang to the point that he could not resist. Whir! An angry beast roar sounded. Zhuowen only felt a strong wind whistling towards him from behind. It was so loud that it almost hurt his eardrums. He knew that the devil ape had arrived. It seems that if I don't show my true strength, this devil ape will not be easy to deal with. Frowning slightly, Zhuowen did not dodge. Instead, he pinched his waist and turned around to punch out. He actually intended to directly collide with the devil ape's body. At the same time that Zhuowen's fist blasted out, the surface of his skin suddenly turned into a glassy luster, suffused with a lustrous brilliance. This was the effect of using the 6th level of the Jade Stone body tempering technique. Looking at Zhuowen's somewhat suicidal behavior, Lu Hang, who was not far away, was a little stunned. Soon after, his face was filled with a sneer. He said, "This one is courting death. He actually dares to fight against this devil ape with his body." Boom! In the face of the huge fist that was as tall as a person, Yuan was not afraid at all. In the blink of an eye, it directly blasted against the devil ape's fist. Soon after, endless waves of qi swirled in the air, distorting space and overflowing force. The devil ape's strength was truly indescribable. Zhuowen actually felt a wave of numbness coming from the web between his thumb and forefinger. Soon after, he retreated over 10 steps, his eyes narrowing. Whir! A mournful and miserable cry suddenly sounded out. Lu Hang, who was originally waiting to watch a good show, suddenly narrowed his eyes. His gaze blankly stared at the huge devil ape not far away. At this moment, one of the devil ape's huge arms was actually completely twisted and fractured. At the end of its shoulder, even a piece of eerie white bone could be seen. This was caused by the dislocation of the broken bones of the arm under the effect of a huge force that pierced through the body. Looking at the tall and straight figure of Zhuan, who was completely unscathed, Lu Hang's originally narrowed pupils once again narrowed and finally shrunk to the size of a needle. How could this Zhuan be so abnormal? He had clearly exchanged blows with the devil ape and was completely unscathed, but the devil ape had ended up in such a miserable state. The devil ape rolled a few times on the ground before finally turning into countless drops of viscous black liquid that flew back to the surface of the spear in Lu Hang's hand. However, the spear's luster was now much dimmer. Thump, thump, thump. Lu Hang, do we still need to fight? Crisp footsteps sounded out as Zhuan slowly walked towards the dazed Lu Hang. He waved the blood-red spear in his right hand as he stared at the latter with an extremely cold gaze. At this moment, Lu Hang's face was pale. He glanced at the extremely dim spear in his hand and recalled the scene of Zhuan defeating the devil ape with a single punch. His body trembled slightly. He knew that this Zhuan in front of him was too strong and that he was simply no match for him. After a moment of hesitation, Lu Hang slapped his right palm with his left hand. The heaven rank imprint that was engraved on his right palm was immediately taken out and tossed to Zhuan. Zhuan, you win. I really didn't expect you to be so secretive. If I'm not wrong, your true strength isn't weaker than an ordinary late-stage second-wheel Emperor Realm expert. Although he was somewhat unwilling, Lu Hang also knew that Zhuan's strength far exceeded his imagination. Thus, he straightforwardly handed over the heaven rank imprint. Zhuan's eyes lit up as he received the heaven rank imprint. At the same time, his hostility towards Lu Hang decreased by quite a bit. Although Lu Hang had looked down on him at the beginning, he was a straightforward person. Now that he had lost, he didn't hesitate and directly handed over the heaven rank imprint. Thank you for letting me win. Zhuan's tone was somewhat gentle. Zhuan, you're very strong. However, there are many people stronger than you in the Origin Chi Tower. I hope you can keep moving forward. Lu Hang nodded and directly turned into a pillar of light, disappearing from the hall. Zhuan knew that Lu Hang had probably been teleported out of the trial mountain. After all, once the imprint on one's body was taken away, the trial mountain would instinctively reject it. Naturally, it was impossible for one to stay in there for long. At this moment, only Zhuan was left in the large hall. His gaze shifted slightly, and Zhuan immediately focused on the stone platform in the center of the hall. Although the primordial azure darkness fruit couldn't increase one's strength, it could increase the sensitivity of the 5 senses. It was even more precious to cultivators. Let's take out the primordial azure darkness fruit first. At this moment, Zhuan was somewhat impatient. With a wave of his right hand, he instantly sent out Lu Hang's imprint, which turned into a golden light and entered the restriction barrier outside the stone platform. What surprised Zhuan was that as soon as Lu Hang's imprint entered the restriction barrier, the barrier immediately disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. In an instant, he arrived in front of the stone platform. Zhuan gently picked up the brocade box with his right hand. With a click, he opened the brocade box. A rich medicinal aroma assailed his nostrils, causing Zhuan to reveal an intoxicated expression. It's really worthy of being a top-grade elixir. Just by smelling the medicinal aroma, I feel comfortable all over and full of energy. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuan's gaze converged on the brocade box. He saw a green fruit quietly lying in the brocade box. The surface of the fruit was smooth and delicate, and when he touched it, it actually felt like he was touching a woman's hand. Boy! In addition to the effect of increasing the 5 senses, the primordial azure darkness fruit also has the effect of refreshing the mind and nourishing the qi. You only need to carry this thing with you at all times, and the medicinal aura inside will subtly enter your body, slowly increasing your 5 senses. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded. Obviously, she was quite familiar with the usage of the primordial azure darkness fruit. As a grade 4 Arcana Master, Although Zhuan didn't receive too much professional knowledge, he had dabbled in some rare treasures. Naturally, Zhuan knew the usage of the primordial azure darkness fruit. Chapter 472. Mechanism. On the platform at the top of the mountain, most of the city lords were focused on the screen of light where Zhuan and Lu Hang were. This was because the battle between Zhuan and Lu Hang was the closest to each other in terms of strength. Moreover, both of them were geniuses of the heaven rank region. Although they were unlucky to encounter each other in the first round, it still attracted the attention of most people. After all, this kind of evenly matched battle was the most intense, so it was naturally the most interesting to watch. On the other hand, the battles on the other screens were basically one-sided. This kind of battle with such a huge disparity in strength naturally made the audience lose interest. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, Yuan and Lu Hang quickly began their fierce battle. The city lord of Furnace City, Lu Teng, still looked as confident as ever. He still looked down on Zhuan, who came from a low-level city. On the other hand, Guyu Tian looked nervous. Although Zhuan's cultivation was higher than Lu Hang's, with Furnace City's foundation, he probably had powerful treasures like Emperor-rank armor skills and Earth-rank spirit treasures. However, Ratan Armor City didn't have such precious treasures. As time gradually passed, the battle became even more intense. Lu Teng, who was originally confident, frowned slightly. This was because he realized that Lu Hang had already taken out his earthly soul treasure, yet he was still at a disadvantage in Zhuowen's hands. This caused his expression to become somewhat ugly. On the other hand, Guyu Tian's expression eased quite a bit. When he saw that Zhuan had the upper hand, he was naturally much happier and more excited. He even couldn't help but laugh out loud. Lu Hang has even used the devil ape strangle. It looks like Zhuan is going to lose. On the screen of light, a huge black ape appeared behind Lu Hang. Lu Teng's expression became slightly better. This devil ape was extremely strong, possessing the battle prowess of a peak mid-level extreme king realm expert. It would be extremely troublesome for an ordinary mid-level extreme king realm expert to encounter. On the other hand, Guyu Tian was nervous. His palms were sweating. The devil ape summoned by Lu Hang was indeed powerful. Even he was worried for Zhuan. Qiu Chao's eyes lit up as he stood beside Guyu Tian and said, "To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. If Zhuan plans to defeat Lu Hang, the devil ape will collapse on its own." Zhuan dodged the attack of the demonic ape as soon as the lightning wings appeared on his back. Then he charged straight at Lu Hang. Naturally, Lu Hang did not want to be outdone. However, Zhuowen's strength was simply too strong. Lu Hang was instantly at a disadvantage. However, Lu Hang managed to hold on in the end. The devil ape in front of him had already caught up, and its mountain-like palm chopped down on Zhuowen's head. Hee. This Zhuan is dead for sure. As expected, he's courting death. Not only is he not dodging, he's even trying to take the devil ape's attack head-on. Looks like the so-called geniuses nurtured by low-level cities are all one-track-minded idiots. The scene of Zhuowen clashing head-on with the devil ape without dodging was displayed in front of everyone's eyes. Lu Teng's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. He was well aware of how powerful the devil ape was. Zhuowen's action of clashing head-on with the devil ape was simply courting death. Zhuowen's fist collided with the devil ape's fist. Space instantly collapsed as energy swirled in the air. Countless gusts of wind wreaked havoc, whistling through the air. What followed next was a scene that left everyone dumbstruck. The mountain-like devilish ape was clutching its arm and howling miserably as it rolled on the ground. Some of the sharp-eyed people even noticed the eerie white bone protruding from the devil ape's right shoulder. They knew that the devil ape's right arm was completely crippled. Recovering from the devil ape's miserable state, everyone shifted their gazes and gathered on the tall figure in front of the devil ape. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as their eyes were filled with disbelief. In the collision just now, Yuan didn't even take a step back. Instead, he stood on the same spot, perfectly unharmed. He was as tall and straight as a pine tree. The crowd couldn't get rid of this figure for a long time. Lu Teng's eyes widened as he clenched his right hand. He stared blankly at the devil ape that was rolling about on the light screen. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. The confidence on his face had long been frozen and was replaced by disbelief. City Lord Lu, thank you for letting me win. Gu Yuetian faintly smiled as he cupped his hands towards Lu Teng, who had an ugly expression on his face. However, his heart was filled with joy. Lu Teng's face was ashen as he gloomily stared at Gu Yuetian. He coldly snorted and said, I didn't expect Jun from your Rattan armor city to have such strength. It seems that Jun has hidden his strength well. With a wave of his sleeve, Lu Teng's eyes flickered continuously. Lu Hang was the top genius of their furnace city and he had a high chance of passing through the trial mountain and entering the third level. However, he was actually eliminated in the first round. This naturally caused Lu Teng to feel extremely depressed. City Lord Gu, congratulations. Zhuowen's strength has somewhat exceeded our expectations. I'm afraid that he has a chance of entering the third level. Qiu Chou and Ouyang Yuntu hurriedly congratulated. Gu Yutian hurriedly returned the greeting and said modestly, Two sirs are too polite. Our Rattan armor city is also lucky to have produced such a monstrous genius like Jun. If it were Gu Xian and Hu Wuing, I'm afraid that our Rattan armor city wouldn't have been able to survive the first round. Just now, after Jun won the first round, the other two screens, Gu Xian and Hu Wuing, sadly failed. Gu Yutian knew that Gu Xian and Hu Wuing had no chance of entering the Tower of Vitality. However, having such a monstrous genius like Jun was already enough. Gu Yutian had a premonition that Jun could enter the third level of the Tower of Vitality. If people were to know that a martial artist from a low-level city had not only advanced to the second floor of the Origin Chi Tower, but had also successfully advanced to the third floor, who knew what kind of uproar this would cause in Muqing County? Thinking of this possibility, Gu Yutian couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. At the same time, his admiration for Zhuowen grew. However, Gu Yutian also knew that the deeper one went into the mountain, the more terrifying the opponents would be. There was even the possibility of encountering the geniuses of the 5 superpowers. Although Zhuowen was indeed very strong, Gu Yutian wasn't so blind as to think that Zhuowen would be a match for the geniuses of the 5 superpowers. After all, the top geniuses of the 5 superpowers were the cream of the crop. Even if Zhuowen was at the mid-stage of the second round of the Extreme King stage, he still wouldn't be enough. I hope that Zhuowen's luck will be good and that he won't encounter the monstrous geniuses of the 5 superpowers, Gu Yutian secretly prayed. In the hall, after Zhuowen successfully obtained the Green Abyss Origin Fruit, a magnificent bronze door slowly opened at the end of the hall. Zhuowen took in a deep breath when he saw this. Without any hesitation, he directly entered the depths of the bronze door. Behind the bronze door was still a deep tunnel. Zhuowen walked for an entire hour before he discovered a ray of light at the end of the tunnel. Following this ray of light, Zhuowen cautiously advanced. What appeared in front of Zhuowen was a hall several times larger than the one before. Stone pillars that seemed to support the heavens silently stood within the hall. At this moment, the great hall was completely silent. A distant and strange atmosphere slowly drifted out, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily frown. This great hall actually gave him a faint sense of danger. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the hall, the sound of arrows being drawn continuously rang out. Soon after, the sound of countless arrows rushing through the air rang out from all directions. Subsequently, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that cold light had actually filled the air several dozen feet around him. With Zhuowen's eyesight, he could tell with a single glance that the cold light was countless arrows. Moreover, the surface of these arrows was overflowing with light. They were not ordinary arrows, but at least soul treasure-level arrows. With a cold gaze, Zhuowen took a step forward and drew his blood-red spear. With a shake of his right hand, blood-red light flashed and turned into spear shadows that filled the sky in front of him. At the same time, Zhuowen cautiously used the limitless shocking cloud art, raising the might of the blood-red spear to the limit. Countless clouds and mist were attached to the spear shadows that filled the sky. Suddenly, the power of the blood-red spear shadows increased by dozens of times. In an instant, the originally extremely dense spear shadows expanded several times, almost enveloping an area of several dozen feet above Zhuowen. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing rang out unceasingly, and countless cold lights burst forth. The dense rain of arrows in the sky collided with the spear shadows, and suddenly countless sparks flew in all directions. What powerful arrows! How can these arrows be so powerful? His expression changed slightly. Half of the defensive circle formed by the spear images had been broken by the dense rain of arrows. He was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for long. Boom! In just a breath's time, the rain of arrows directly broke through the defensive circle of the spear shadows, enveloping Zhuowen from all directions. Boundless sword aura. Open it. Growling deeply, Yuan slapped his cosmos bag and released countless sword lights. 108 sword-shaped spirit treasures formed an iron wall around Yuan. Clang, clang, clang. Countless arrows rained down and blasted against the impenetrable walls. Dense sparks burst out and were exceptionally dazzling. Exhaling lightly, although the defense of the boundless sword aura seemed to be on the verge of collapse, at least it had blocked the attack of the arrow rain. After 5 breaths of time, the attack of the arrow rain finally stopped. However, Zhuowen's expression was extremely gloomy, because through his mind, he could clearly feel that the surface of the boundless sword aura was rapidly dimming. Obviously, it had suffered a lot of damage under the attack of the arrow rain. Waving his right hand, Yuan stared at the surface of the sword-shaped spirit treasures that had become bumpy. His expression became even more unsightly. The sudden appearance of the arrow rain was so powerful that even Zhuowen was a little shocked. The arrows on the ground are actually all high-grade, low-grade spirit treasures. There are thousands of arrows shot out at once. How extravagant! Looking at the light flowing in his hand and the arrows surging with aura, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. At the same time, he stared at the bumpy surface of the boundless sword aura, and his face revealed a trace of relief. Chapter 473. Ling Xiaodao's calculations. Under the attack of the arrows, the boundless astral blade was severely damaged. It's almost useless. Zhuowen couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the everlasting sword aura in his hand that had become full of holes. The everlasting sword aura had accompanied him for a few years, and it was extremely useful. Now that it had been damaged to such an extent, it was basically useless in battle. Are you stupid? The boundless astral blade is formed by 108 sword-shaped spirit treasures. The core is the formation diagram inside. As long as the formation diagram is not broken, the boundless astral blade will not be damaged. Now, as long as you repair these damaged sword-shaped spirit treasures, the boundless astral blade will still be able to recover. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out. He continued to speak like an old man. You are now a rank 4 Arcana Master, and you have several types of earth fire on you. Moreover, you have things like refining crystal jades. You can completely repair it in a short period of time and increase its power. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. Xiao Hei's words were not without reason. Now that he was a rank 4 Arcana Master, repairing a rank 4 origin formation was not a problem at all. These arrows are all high-grade, low-grade spirit treasures. I can completely use the earth fire to melt these arrows and repair the damage of the boundless astral blade. Nodding his head, Yuan waved his right hand and unceremoniously collected the thousands of arrows on the ground into his Qiankuan bag. These arrows were all high-grade, low-grade spirit treasures. The value of thousands of arrows was already comparable to a low-grade, earth-grade spirit treasure. After collecting the arrows, Yuan finally noticed the situation of this large hall. This large hall was much larger than the previous one. The surrounding stone pillars were like pillars that supported the heavens, extremely grand and vast. A sense of vicissitudes faintly leaked out from them. In the center of the stone pillars, there was a broken stone pillar. On the broken cross-section of the stone pillar, a long spear that looked like a human spine was quietly inserted. Around the bone spear, there seemed to be a terrifying energy circulating, constantly devouring the surrounding energy. Moreover, the space around the bone spear showed signs of collapsing. This bone spear was definitely not simple. On top of the bone spear was a line of glowing words, Tyrannical Dragon Scale Bone Spear, Mid-Grade Earth-Grade Spirit Treasure. Mid-Grade Earth-Tier Spirit Treasure. Zhuan couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw the Word of Light. This was the first time he'd seen a mid-grade Earth-rank spirit treasure. Although the 9-wheel Heaven Incinerating Cauldron's grade was definitely far superior to a mid-grade Earth-ranked spiritual treasure, without the supply of Earth Fire, the 9-wheel Heaven Incinerating Cauldron's strength was only equivalent to a low-grade Earth-ranked spiritual treasure. Its strength might not even be comparable to the Dragon-Scale Tyrannical Bone Spear. Brat, this Tyrannical Dragon-Scale Bone Spear is very suitable for you. You have always been a spear expert. Now that you have this Tyrannical Dragon-Scale Bone Spear, your strength will increase by a lot. Xiaohei's voice became a little excited. Nodding slightly, Huan helplessly said, "Unfortunately, it's not that easy to obtain this Tyrant Dragon-Scale Bone Spear. I'm afraid that the opponent I'll encounter next will be extremely difficult to deal with." As he said that, Zhuowen's gaze shifted and his attention was immediately focused on the other side of the bronze door. He knew that the opponent of this hall should be behind that bronze door. Zhuan wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he crossed his arms and closed his eyes as he silently waited. He had a premonition that the opponent this time would be a genius from the Heaven rank region. Moreover, it would be even more difficult to deal with than Lu Hang. After all, the treasures this time were too abundant. The ear-piercing sound of a door opening slowly echoed. His ears twitched and Zhuowen's eyes suddenly opened as he stared at the other bronze door. A ghostly shadow suddenly rushed out from the other side of the bronze door at lightning speed. The moment this figure stepped into the main hall, the sounds of countless crossbows being fired rang out. Ear-piercing sounds of air being pierced rang out throughout the main hall. Countless cold lights flickered, and a dense rain of arrows enveloped this figure. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. It seemed that the rain of arrows wasn't just aimed at his door. It seemed that every door contained such a strange mechanism. Looks like I'll have to be even more careful in the Trial Mountains. After all, the danger doesn't just come from other cultivators, but from these traps as well. I wonder if this person will be able to deal with this rain of arrows. Huan was well aware of the might of this rain of arrows. An ordinary mid-second will Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would find it difficult to block it. Perhaps only a late second wheel Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator would be able to avoid this rain of arrows without suffering any damage. A mechanism? A surprised voice rang out. Then, the figure that had rushed out had an unchanging expression as he twisted his waist and spun 360 degrees. At the same time, 2 dragon-headed blades had appeared in his hands at an unknown time. As his body rotated, the sabers in his hands were like agile dragon heads, completely blocking off the rain of arrows that enveloped him. He even had some strength left in his feet as he took a step in the air, flying out of the range of the rain of arrows. Many of the arrows missed their target. An expert. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. The strength that the man before him had displayed was extremely great. He had actually managed to dodge the rain of arrows with such ease. After all, Huan had been in a rather sorry state when he'd entered the trial grounds. Thump thump. After dodging the rain of arrows, the man tapped his feet in the air and landed in the hall with great agility. His eyes narrowed as he immediately noticed Zhuowen, who wasn't too far away. He wasn't very old, around 20 at most. His figure was rather thin, and his face was sickly pale. He wielded 2 dragon-headed blades that were extremely disproportionate to his figure. His skinny figure and his huge blades formed a great contrast. Both of them gave off a strange aura. "Aren't you the genius Zhuowen from that low-level city? I never thought that I would meet you here." After this person noticed Zhuowen, who was not far away, a simple and honest smile appeared on his face. He actually walked toward Zhuowen in a carefree manner. There was no hostility in his expression. Instead, he revealed a trace of sincerity. Zhuowen also recognized this person. He was Ling Tian City's number 3 genius, Ling Xiaodao. He was quite short, but he liked to use the 2 blades that tall and muscular men liked. Ling Tian City was quite famous. It was also a super city, but it was the undisputed number 1 super city. No matter if it was in terms of strength or foundation, it was far superior to other super cities, and it was very close to the 5 great super factions. It was said that Ling Tian City's #1 genius, Ling Wushuang, had already broken through to the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, and his strength was very close to LV Yongxing's. Even though he was still slightly inferior, the difference wasn't that great. It had to be said that apart from the 5 great super factions, it was very difficult for other factions to nurture a young genius who had reached the Ultimate Emperor realm. However, Ling Tian City had done it, which showed how extraordinary its foundation and strength were. Even though Ling Xiaodao was only Ling Tian City's #3 genius, his strength was not weak. His cultivation had already reached the late stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, and the 2 blades in his hands were both Earth-rank low-level spiritual treasures, called the Dragon Will Blades. What's going on with Ling Xiaodao? We're clearly opponents, so why is this guy acting like nothing is wrong and trying to worm his way into being friends with me? Looking at the sincere Ling Xiaodao in front of him, Yuan was a bit unsure of the former's intentions. He frowned, but did not do anything. He wanted to see what Ling Xiaodao was up to. Ling Xiaodao stopped when he was 3 meters away from Zhuan. He looked at Zhuan with a smile and said, "Actually, I quite admire you. You're clearly a cultivator from a low-level city, but you were able to cultivate to the Ultimate Emperor realm. This is somewhat inconceivable to us." "It's just luck." Zhuan shook his head and said calmly, "I don't think you were able to reach the Ultimate Emperor realm because of luck. Which one of those who can reach the Ultimate Emperor realm doesn't have a firm will? You're younger than me, but you were able to reach this level. You're indeed a genius." Ling Xiaodao shook his head and sighed. Then he narrowed his eyes and stared at Zhuan. He said in a low voice, "It's just a pity that you met me, Ling Xiaodao. Because what I, Ling Xiaodao, love the most is to kill young and talented geniuses like you, hee." As he spoke, Ling Xiaodao actually began to laugh maniacally. His originally sincere gaze was now replaced by a trace of madness. 2 blades of light flashed past Zhuan's eyes like lightning. So fast, Zhuan had just reacted when the 2 blades of light smashed into his chest. The shock caused Zhuan's chest to feel stuffy. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. "Ha, Zhuan, you're too naive. Those who know my fighting style won't let me come within 10 meters of you. Because my blade is faster than lightning, no one can receive my blade within 10 meters. So die." Ling Xiaodao laughed loudly again. He stomped his feet and his entire body was like a hurricane. Holding his blades with both hands, he chased after Zhuan who was flying in front of him. The 2 blades were like cold lights in the cold night. They formed a crisscross pattern and shot toward Zhuan's chest. Being in midair, Zhuan's face finally turned ugly. He did not think that the sincere expression that Ling Xiaodao had shown at the beginning was actually a lie. His goal was to get within 3 feet of him and use his sharp blade. Actually, the main reason was that Zhuan was careless. Although he was always on guard against Ling Xiaodao, he didn't know his fighting style. He also didn't know that Ling Xiaodao's blade was so fast that he couldn't catch it. If he knew Ling Xiaodao's fighting style, Zhuan definitely wouldn't let him come within 10 meters of him. He definitely wouldn't let him take the initiative to attack. However, it was too late to think about this now. Ling Xiaodao's blade was already close to Zhuan's body. Waves of sharp blade qi connected together and actually enveloped Zhuan's vital points at the same time. If he was hit by Ling Xiaodao's attack, even if Zhuan had an abnormal recovery ability, he would still die. "Do you really think I'm so easy to pinch?" Although Ling Xiaodao had made the first move, Zhuan did not panic at all. He clenched his fists, and his body was covered with countless blood veins. A terrifying blood flame formed a blood shield in front of him. Boom! Chapter 474. Counterattack. Thump, thump, thump. Rapid footsteps rang out. After retreating a dozen steps, Yuan barely managed to stabilize himself. He stared at Ling Xiaodao with a dark expression, and for the first time, a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. This Ling Xiaodao was too treacherous. His cultivation was clearly higher than his, yet he still used such a despicable method to trick him. This person was simply a treacherous villain from head to toe. This caused Zhuo Wen's heart to be filled with killing intent. Your reaction isn't bad. Ling Xiaodao stood with his blade in hand. He was somewhat astonished as he looked at the gloomy-looking Zhuo Wen in front of him. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. Originally, he had believed that his previous plan would be able to cleanly finish off Zhuo Wen. However, he did not expect that it would fail. Ling Xiaodao, is it? No one has ever dared to scheme against me. You're the first, so in order to repay you, I'll beat you half to death. Zhuo Wen's gaze was dark. Under the effects of the heart of the underworld, the two hideous wounds on his chest were healing at a visible rate. At this moment he was truly furious. Beat me half to death? Ling Xiaodao looked at Zhuo Wen with some amusement, as if he was looking at a joke. He laughed loudly. Are you sure your brain works? You dare to speak such arrogant words with your cultivation at the mid-ultimate king realm? You're lucky that I didn't kill you just now. Your luck won't be so good after this. With that, Ling Xiaodao waved his blades and stepped lightly on the ground. His entire body turned into a blur as he shot toward Jun. In an instant, he arrived before Jun. Countless blades of light filled the air and directly blasted toward Jun. Jun was not to be outdone. He extended his arm that was covered in bloody veins. Countless bloody flames immediately turned into countless bloody hands and blasted towards the incoming Ling Xiaodao. The surrounding air evaporated and the temperature rose rapidly. Ling Xiaodao did not dodge. The dragon intent blades in his hands struck out like a whirlwind. In the blink of an eye, he had slashed out several hundred times. At a glance, all that could be seen were the cold glints of the blades as they sliced through the air. Boom! Boom! Ling Xiaodao's quick blade was extremely powerful. In just 2 breaths of time, he had actually shattered the countless blood hands formed by the surrounding blood flames. His entire body rushed out of the endless blood flames like a hot knife through butter. The 2 blades in his hands were like a whirlwind as they directly slashed toward Zhuo Wen below. Zhuo Wen's gaze sank. This Ling Xiaodao was indeed an expert, and he was also a genius in using the blade. His blade was so fast that Zhuo Wen could not catch the specific trajectory and could only vaguely see a trace of the blade. With Ling Xiaodao's frighteningly fast blade, he basically didn't need to use any moves to break through most of the opponent's attacks and defenses. Although the blood hand released by Zhuo Wen was powerful, Ling Xiaodao's blade was fast, ruthless, and accurate. In the blink of an eye, he had slashed out hundreds of times, and all of them had hit the same spot on the blood hand. The power of Ling Xiaodao's slash was indeed not strong, but with hundreds of slashes superimposed on the same position, the power that could erupt was enough to split mountains and shatter rivers. Zhuo Wen had never heard of or seen such a blade technique. Humph! I would like to see the power of your quick blade. With a cold snort, Zhuo Wen was not to be outdone. He took out his blood-red spear, and with a shake of his right hand, the blood-red spear shadows swept towards Ling Xiaodao like countless raindrops. It's just a small trick. Watch me break your spear shadows. Ling Xiaodao was extremely disdainful of Zhuo Wen's demon moon dragon spine spear. He could see at a glance that the blood-red spear in Zhuo Wen's hand was only a high-grade spirit treasure. How could such a spirit treasure block the power of his dragon will dual blades? Clang, clang. Shocking cloud limitless art. Zhuo Wen wasn't afraid of the blade chi that was almost within reach. He shook his right hand, and suddenly, countless clouds and mist enveloped him. His figure disappeared, and he dodged the blade chi that Ling Xiaodao had sent towards him. Chu Ba Cheng's shocking cloud limitless art? Seems like you are quite rich. You actually have such an emperor tier armor skill. But it's useless against me. Wild blade wind. Ling Xiaodao let out a low growl as his right arm stretched out like a nimble snake. His large blade suddenly danced as countless blade auras swept out, forming a hurricane of blade auras that overflowed and directly broke through the surrounding clouds and mist. A blood-red light flashed, and a huge blood-red spear came out from behind Ling Xiaodao, directly stabbing towards the back of his head, and a wave of blood-red energy dissipated. Clang, 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 clang. Zhuo Wen's clear and melodious shout rang out. Instantly, the great blood-red spear's energy dissipated, and a huge blood-red spear phantom descended from the void. A powerful force directly attached itself to the great blood-red spear, causing the great blood-red spear's power to increase to the limit. Feeling the sudden increase in power behind him, Ling Xiaodao's expression changed slightly. He lightly waved the dragon intent blade in his right hand, and countless blade auras swept out behind him, directly blocking the blood-colored spear. At the same time, he took a step back and retreated more than 10 steps. Only then did he look at Zhuo Wen, who was not far away, with a serious expression. Clang, 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 clang. At the moment of the collision, Zhuo Wen retreated again and again, because the speed of Ling Xiaodao's blade was even faster than before. The violent explosion was like a hurricane wreaking havoc, directly bombarding Zhuo Wen's blood-colored great spear endlessly. Clang, 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 clang. Zhuo Wen's complexion slightly changed, and he raised his blood spear horizontally. Ling Xiaodao's attack finally landed on the blood spear, and a loud and clear sound rang out. Countless chi waves burst forth, and sparks flew everywhere. Clang, 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 dun, clang, 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 clang. How can Zhuo Wen's body be so strong? Clang, clang, clang. Now it's my turn. Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold. He did not expect the Moon Demon Dragon's Pine Spear to be destroyed like this. This Ling Xiaodao's dragon will dual blades were indeed powerful. Even the Moon Demon Dragon's Pine Spear could not block them. Since the Moon Demon Dragon's Pine Spear had been broken, Zhuo no longer had any intention of hiding his strength. The blood flames on his body surged out, and his muscles swelled up, dyed in a layer of strange blood red. The strength of your physical body is indeed not bad, but do you think you can beat me just because of this? That's too arrogant and conceited. Ling Xiaodao sneered. Try it and you'll know. Zhuan shook his head and suddenly clenched his left hand. Waves of blue and green flames surged out and revolved around Zhuo Wen's body. Immediately, he stepped on the ground and opened his lightning wings. He directly rushed towards Ling Xiaodao with a cold and emotionless face. Ling Xiaodao coldly snorted in disdain. His two blades were ready to attack, and he also rushed towards Zhuan. His aura surged, and his strength swirled in the air. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the two of them directly exchanged blows. Zhuo Wen's fists were like steel, and he was not afraid of Ling Xiaodao's slashes at all. He punched out, accompanied by the two colored flames, and Ling Xiaodao was swept away, directly blasting away the dragon will dual blades. This guy's physical body? What's going on? The more Ling Xiaodao fought, the more surprised he became. Zhuan was clearly bare-handed, and he was holding an earthly soul treasure. Now, he was being suppressed by Zhuan. The feeling of being suppressed made Ling Xiaodao feel extremely uncomfortable. Die. Ling Xiaodao was ruthless. He did not plan to defend. His two blades blasted out together and directly slashed toward Zhuo Wen's neck. Countless blades flashed, sharp and overbearing. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuan sneered. The two-colored flames on the surface of his body surged out, forming a thick layer of two-colored fire shield around his neck, and directly blocked Ling Xiaodao's sharp blade. The one who should die should be you. Ling Xiaodao's attack had completely given up on defense, so Zhuan instantly found an opening. His fists turned into claws, and directly clasped Ling Xiaodao's wrists, and fiercely squeezed. Ling Xiaodao's eyes were wide open, and his wrists were completely crippled. The dragon will dual blades in his hands fell to the ground, and Zhuan did not show any mercy. His knees, which were ready to attack, suddenly kicked upwards. Boom! Chapter 475. The Everlasting Old Man's Resentment. Pucci. Fresh blood gushed out of Ling Xiaodao's mouth like a faucet that wasn't turned on properly. Ling Xiaodao's eyes were wide open and filled with blood. He felt a heart-wrenching pain in his abdomen, as if his internal organs had been smashed. With a toss of his right hand, Yuan casually threw Ling Xiaodao's body to the side. Soon after, he squatted beside him and said indifferently, "You've already lost. Now hand over the heaven rank imprint." Ling Xiaodao trembled as he tilted his head and stared at Zhuan. His eyes were filled with fear. The Zhuan in front of him was too terrifying. The strength of his physical body was actually able to block his dragon will dual blades. The blade technique he was most proud of was also completely useless. This battle could be said to be exceptionally sullen. After obtaining the heaven rank imprint, Zhuan sent Ling Xiaodao flying with a kick and walked towards the broken pillar in the center of the hall with large strides. His face also revealed a trace of an excited smile. Although the Moon Demon Dragon's Pine Spear was damaged, now that he was able to obtain an even more powerful tyrannical dragon scale bone spear, Zhuan was naturally quite satisfied. Not far away, Ling Xiaodao, who was kicked flying, resentfully glanced at Zhuan's back. His eyes flickered and his right hand patted his Qiankuan bag. Immediately, 2 undetectable thin needles flew towards the back of Zhuan's head. Zhuan's pupils shrank. With 2 fingers of his right hand, 2 incomparably black needles suddenly appeared between his fingers. Zhuan could even feel that the surface of these 2 needles had a terrifying corrosive property. They should have been coated with poison. "You're courting death." Originally, Zhuan didn't want to bother with Ling Xiaodao. After all, Ling Xiaodao had been scheming against him from the start. But in the end, he didn't kill him and only took the heaven rank imprint. But now, Ling Xiaodao's sneak attack from behind had immediately angered Zhuan. In addition, Zhuan didn't feel good about him from the start. At this moment, Zhuan no longer held back. With a step, he directly rushed towards Ling Xiaodao with a face full of killing intent. "Zhuan, you dare to kill me? I'm a genius from Ling Tian City. If you kill me, do you not want Vine Armor City anymore?" At this moment, Ling Xiaodao was also secretly regretting. The sneak attack just now was also because of the imbalance in his heart, but he regretted it the moment he made his move. Now that he saw Zhuan coming over with murderous intent, Ling Xiaodao was immediately terrified. Bang! What greeted Ling Xiaodao was a kick, which directly landed on his chest. The powerful force even caused his sternum to cave in, and Ling Xiaodao directly fell into the wall at the side of the hall, almost embedding himself into it. To die under your own weapon, you should be able to die in peace. Picking up the dragon will dual sabers that had been tossed aside, Zhuan tossed them with his right hand. The 2 shiny sabers flew directly towards Ling Xiaodao on the wall. If Ling Xiaodao was pierced by the dragon will dual sabers, he would definitely die. At this moment, Ling Xiaodao was filled with regret. He did not expect that his actions just now would bring him such a result. Clang. However, the instant the dragon will dual sabers entered Ling Xiaodao's body, a pillar of light shot into Ling Xiaodao's body, and he instantly disappeared from the hall. The dragon will dual sabers missed and directly stabbed into the wall. Was he teleported out? Forget it. These dragon will dual sabers are Earth-rank soul treasures after all. They can be used as compensation for the sneak attack just now. Glancing at Ling Xiaodao who had disappeared, Zhuan coldly snorted. With a wave of his right hand, he directly put the dragon will dual sabers into his universe pouch, and then directly walked towards the broken pillar in the middle of the hall. When Zhuan was about to take out the tyrannical dragon scale bone spear, the platform at the top of the trial mountain burst into an uproar. Everyone stared blankly at the scene of Ling Xiaodao being beaten to the point of vomiting blood by Zhuan, and they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Why is this Zhuan so abnormal? I can accept that he can defeat Lu Hang. After all, Lu Hang is only at the early stage of the second wheel, while this one is at the mid-stage of the second wheel. But how could Ling Xiaodao be defeated? This is a monstrous genius at the late stage of the second wheel. This Zhuan's battle record has indeed exceeded everyone's expectations. Even Ling Xiaodao was defeated by him. I'm afraid this kid's strength is already comparable to a late stage of the second wheel, or even stronger. He defeated someone of a higher rank than him. This is an ability that only monstrous geniuses have. This Zhuan's talent has indeed entered the category of monstrous geniuses. Countless people's gazes toward Zhuan had already changed. Originally, many of the city lords of the intermediate, advanced, and even super cities didn't think too highly of Zhuowen and Rattan Armor City. However, after Zhuowen consecutively defeated Lu Hang and Ling Xiaodao, they finally began to pay attention to this dark horse that had suddenly appeared. Lu Teng, who was originally somewhat unconvinced, was now completely silent. Since Zhuowen was able to defeat Ling Xiaodao, then Lu Hang's defeat was truly not unjustified. Although Lu Teng was arrogant, he wasn't arrogant to the point of looking down on others. He was still very clear about the difference between Lu Hang and Ling Xiaodao. Since even Ling Xiaodao wasn't a match for this Zhuowen, Lu Hang's loss was excusable. Among them, the most pleasantly surprised was naturally Gu Yutian. At this moment, he was so excited that he couldn't speak. Originally, Ling Xiaodao's appearance had caused him to feel extreme despair, but in the end, Zhuowen had broken this trace of despair and counterattacked to defeat Ling Xiaodao. This result was beyond his expectations. Qiu Chou and Ouyang Yuntu naturally congratulated him repeatedly. In their hearts, they were happy for Gu Yutian, and at the same time, they looked at Zhuowen even more highly. The everlasting old man, who was still in the group, seemed extremely lonely and gloomy at this moment. After the results of the second round came out, the remaining geniuses of Tyrant Chu City had all been eliminated. In other words, their Tyrant Chu City's origin Qi Tower battle had come to an end. Damn it. If Lu Che, Zhou Yi, and Zhou Fan hadn't died, our Tyrant Chu City wouldn't be in such an awkward situation right now. The everlasting old man clenched his fists tightly. At this moment, he also noticed the uproar around him. His gaze gathered over and immediately saw the light screen of Zhuowen and Ling Xiaodao's battle. On the light screen, after Zhuowen violently kicked Ling Xiaodao, causing him to vomit blood and fly backwards, the everlasting old man's eyes widened. He muttered to himself in disbelief, "How can this little bastard Zhuowen be so strong? Even Ling Xiaodao was defeated by him. Could it be that this little bastard was hiding his strength from the beginning? And Lu Che and the others who were chasing this little bastard were all killed by him? Right? It must be this little bastard who killed them. Otherwise, how could Lu Che, who had a life talisman, have died in the dark forest?" The everlasting old man seemed to have suddenly become enlightened. Lu Che, Zhou Yi, and Zhou Fan's deaths in the dark forest were extremely strange. The everlasting old man had long suspected that they were killed by Zhuowen. However, because Zhuowen was only at the early stage of the second wheel, he didn't dare to be certain. But now, Zhuowen had displayed such great strength. Even Ling Xiaodao, who was at the late stage of the second wheel, had been defeated by him. All of this proved that Zhuowen had enough strength to kill Lu Che and the others. It really was this little bastard. Lu Che, Zhou Yi, and Zhou Fan were all brought up by this old man. You little bastard actually killed them just like that. This old man won't let you off. The everlasting old man's eyes were scarlet red as he fiercely glared at Zhuowen's figure on the screen. He couldn't wait to kill this Zhuowen right now to prevent any future troubles. However, the everlasting old man quickly calmed down. He coldly stared at Gu Yutian, then looked at Zhuowen's figure on the screen and said in a low voice, "Hee hee. Since I know you're the murderer, then don't even think about leaving the Tower of Vitality alive. Of course, don't even think about entering the third level of the tower. When the time comes, go directly to the underworld to accompany Lu Che and the others." The everlasting old man fiercely glared at Zhuowen on the screen again. His expression slowly calmed down. He knew that Zhuowen was still in the Mountain of Trials, so it wasn't easy to make a move on him. However, once Zhuowen left the Mountain of Trials, he would immediately kill Zhuowen. With his cultivation at the Ultimate Emperor realm, instantly killing this Zhuowen was a simple matter. Although killing a contestant was against the rules set by the Lu Nantian, he would be able to do it quickly. However, as long as he acted quickly and killed Zhuowen before anyone else could react, then even if the Lu Nantian came to blame him, he wouldn't kill Zhuowen for a lowly commoner from a low-level city. At most, he would only give him a light punishment. At the front of the group, the Lu Nanshan's group of 5 were also quite surprised by Zhuowen's performance on the screen. No matter what, Ling Xiaodao was still a late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, but he was still defeated by Zhuowen in the end. This naturally surprised the Lu Nantian. This Yuan hid his strength quite well. I originally thought that this kid's limit was to defeat a mid-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator, but now he's given me an even bigger surprise. The Lu Nantian smiled. Actually, I couldn't see through this Shuowen. When he was fighting with Ling Xiaodao, this Shuowen had been hiding his strength. However, after the weapon in his hand was destroyed by Ling Xiaodao, he burst out with his strength and completely defeated Ling Xiaodao. This kid wants to keep a low profile, but unfortunately, the opponent he met made it impossible for him to keep a low profile. Shen Yuanli had his hands behind his back, and his face was full of smiles. His interest in this Shuowen grew even more. Brother Xuan Yuan's words are reasonable. This Shuowen's luck is really bad. He met 2 heaven stage geniuses in a row, but this also exposed his true strength. This Shuowen can't be underestimated. Marquis Yongxing Qinye pinched his thumb and middle finger together and smiled. However, there's still a huge gap between him and the top geniuses of our 5 superpowers. However, I feel that this kid can enter the top 100 of the Origin Qi Tower and have a chance to enter the 4th floor to fight for the inheritance of the ancient ruins. The Lu Nantian nodded, agreeing with Qin Ye's words. Zhuowen's performance was indeed stunning, but he still couldn't compare to the true top geniuses of their superpowers. However, he still had hope of entering the top 100 of the Origin Qi Tower. When the Lu Nantian's words came out, the other 4 were somewhat surprised. This Lu Nantian's evaluation of Zhuowen was quite high. The top 100 of the Origin Qi Tower wasn't that easy to fight for. Brother Lu is exaggerating a bit. This Zhuowen's strength is indeed strong, but he's only comparable to a late-stage Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator. If he wants to enter the top 100, he needs to at least be at the peak of the Ultimate Emperor Realm. The Marquis of Baichuan shook his head. Perhaps you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.